Chapter 1352. Wang Ling had expected Gu Xuanji to come and beg him. After all, if a person didn't have no other choice, there was no way he would agree to be his mother's fake boyfriend. Wang Zhen and Lu Qingyi were in love, and Wang Ling calculated their relationship lines. This was a happy ending. That was to say, there was no possibility of them breaking up later on. Given this premise, there was a big question as to why Gu Xuanji could continue to exist. He was someone who had transmigrated from the future, and his initial goal had been to stop Wang Zhen and Lu Qingyi's relationship, but things had turned out contrary to his wishes. I actually didn't expect them to progress so quickly. After all, there's still some time before my dad comes back from his trip to the galaxy. My parents got to know each other after my father returned from his trip to the galaxy. In Wang Ling's bedroom, Gu Xuanji sat on his knees in front of him and sighed. "Xinren, I can only rely on you now. Also, I suspect that someone put a curse on me when my mom slapped me today. If it's convenient for you, Xinren, could you also help investigate this?" Wang Ling looked a little hesitant. After all, he was the culprit behind the whole thing. His initial goal had just been to test out Single's curse and give it a good job. He hadn't expected things to get out of hand. Furthermore, the memory loss restriction hadn't been activated. This was probably because Gu Xuanji and Lu Qingyi weren't a real couple. Wang Ling's original purpose for setting up the memory loss mechanism was to prevent couples from separating. But now, not only had Lu Qingyi and Wang Zhen not separated because of Single's curse, they were together. Thus, the memory loss mechanism hadn't worked as it should. Seeing Wang Ling's hesitant expression, Gu Xuanji thought that he had made too many demands, which had made Wang Ling unhappy. Thus, he hurriedly corrected himself. "My matter is more important. Ling Xinren, if you think it's too troublesome to investigate the person who put the curse on you, I can investigate it myself. I'll definitely make that person come out and apologize in person." Wang Ling didn't doubt Gu Xuanji's investigative abilities as a keeper of order. But he had to get to the bottom of this matter as soon as possible. Fortunately, he was prepared. While Gu Xuanji was speaking, a branch quietly stuck out from the toilet in Wang Ling's bedroom. Pa! A heavy blow landed on the back of Gu Xuanji's head. "I didn't let you down. The physical amnesia technique is a success." This was a tree branch that could speak. After confirming that Gu Shen had fainted, it let out a bell-like laughter. Wang Ling had already anticipated that Gu Xuanji would come, so he had permanently strengthened a branch of the cosmic god tree for the physical amnesia spell. Why was it permanent? Wang Ling felt that he might miss you in the future. The physical amnesia spell was very simple, and Wang Ling could do it himself. It was just that he couldn't be precise, and attacking the head might send it flying. The reason why they had set their sights on the cosmic god tree was also because, working with Lord Ma, the cosmic god tree could now extend its branches wherever it wanted. This way, it would be much easier for him to use the physical amnesia spell. As long as he summoned the cosmic god tree in his mind, a strengthened branch would instantly appear on the back of the target's head and whip it. Most importantly, Miss Yu's control over her strength was outstanding. Not only would there not be any sequelae after being drained, but there would also be no repercussions. The psionic energy of the divine tree on the branches could even seep into the cerebral cortex, making those who had been sucked feel refreshed after they woke up. Roughly 10 seconds later, Gu Xuanji woke up. His complexion was clearly much better than before he had arrived at the Wang family's small villa. Gu Xuanji had no idea what had just happened. It was as if he was just in a daze. After his consciousness returned, he saw Wang Ling earnestly helping him sort out the timeline. Ling Zhenren is such a good person. Gu Xuanji sighed in his heart. Wang Ling. According to the clues provided by Gu Xuanji, his father, Gu Cheng, had only met Lu Qingyi after returning from a trip. Their relationship quickly warmed up, and soon, they gave birth to him. The matter of Gu Qing coming to the Divine Realm's Lu family to propose marriage was also recorded in the Divine Realm's history. After the two families united by marriage, the Lu family's position among the 10 great families of the God domain could be said to have taken a meteoric rise. Very quickly, the Lu family rushed to the 3rd place, making a fool out of the Zhou family, who was originally ranked 3rd. In order to prove that what he said was true, Gu Xuanji also produced a lot of photographic evidence. The alluring woman in the photo was, without a doubt, Lu Qingyi herself. After the two of them got married that day, rumor had it that Wang Zhen was disheartened and never returned to the divine realm again. At first glance, this seemed to be the case, but Wang Ling felt that there might be more to it than meets the eye. My lord, I have something to say. At that moment, Book of Sage Immortal's voice rang out. Wang Ling had casually stuffed Book of Sage Immortal into Lord Ma's mouth last time, and it looked like he had already reflected on his actions. But death could be spared, but punishment couldn't be forgiven. Wang Ling had never given up on giving Book of Sage Immortal away. Is this Lord Holy Book? Gu Xuanji turned his head and bowed. Based on the timeline, I already have a reasonable answer, said Book of Sage Immortal. He planned to speak out his reasoning in exchange for a chance to atone for his crimes. Lord Holy Book already has an answer? Gu Xuanji was startled. That's right. Book of Sage Immortal said. Everyone thought that Wang Zhen was disheartened after losing Lu Qingyi, so he left the divine realm of the gods and never came back. In that case, is there another possibility that Wang Zhen and the real Miss Lu eloped? The real Miss Lu? The corners of Gu Xuanji's mouth twitched in shock. After all that trouble, it turned out that his mother was a fake? Impossible. I definitely didn't mistake my mother for someone else, Gu Xuanji retorted. I used my tracking privilege as a keeper of order to secretly mark my mother's soul with a soul imprint, and then tracked her here. There's no way I was wrong. Indeed, you weren't wrong. But you also have to remember that if the target you marked is an object produced by the original body, then when you track it, the mark will fall back on the original body before the target is produced. Although Book of Sage Immortal's words were very hard to pronounce, Gu Xuanji already seemed to understand what was going on. Lord Holy Book means, from the very beginning, the one your father liked was Miss Lu's shadow. And your mother is also Miss Lu's shadow. It's just that at this time, Miss Lu's shadow hasn't awakened yet. So the mark you made in the future will ultimately fall back on Miss Lu's original body. So that's how it is. Gu Xuanji was lost in thought. This deduction is correct 78% of the time. After saying this, Book of Sage Immortal sighed. If it wasn't for the fact that my lord is a single dog, which affects some of my judgment on emotions, the accuracy would be even higher. Wang Ling? Question mark. Wang Ling? Question mark. Chapter 1353. Gu Xuanji hadn't expected the truth to be like this. It turned out that he was the child of Lu Qingyi's shadow. Gu Xuanji's mood immediately became complicated when he heard this result. Even if the shadow had awakened spiritual intelligence, it was still a manifestation of the original body. Since this was the case, Lu Qingyi's shadow could in fact also be called Lu Qingyi's daughter. Because of this, the relationship between him and Lu Qingyi's original body seemed to become even more complicated. Before this, Gu Xuanji had always regarded Lu Qingyi's original body as mom. But in fact, he should be calling her grandma? You look like you're in a complicated mood. At that moment, Book of Sage Immortal said. But it's not incomprehensible. After all, your mother has suddenly become your grandma. There's bound to be a sense of difference. You should be more open-minded. Having an old person at home is like having a treasure. Gu Xuanji. Wang Ling. When Gu Xuanji returned to the staff apartment that day, he had just arrived at the door when he found Lu Qingyi holding Wang Zhen's arm as they chatted and laughed as they waited at the elevator door. The two of them dressed lightly, and looked like they were about to go out as they interacted intimately. Gu Xuanji wanted to say something, but stopped himself. It was mainly because he was hesitating between calling her grandma and mom, and didn't know which was better. I know, Brother Gu. Don't be sad. At that moment, Wang Zhen looked up at Gu Xuanji and patted him on the shoulder sympathetically. Although Gu Xuanji was a keeper of order, he usually lived together in Wang Zhen's house and didn't put on any airs, so Wang Zhen and Gu Xuanji also called each other brother. Now Gu Xuanji's mood became even more complicated as he stared at the grandfather, who called him brother. What do you know? Qingyi said that you have a serious Oedipus complex, said Wang Zhen. Don't worry, since I'm with Qingyi, I'll definitely keep my mouth shut about this. I won't tell anyone else. Wang Zhen said, keepers of order are under a lot of pressure, so it's normal for them to have some quirks. I heard my dad talk about even stranger cases before. There was a keeper of order who had been single for a long time, so his shadow was pretty. He actually had desires for a woman's shadow. Gu Xuanji didn't want to continue discussing this topic and quickly changed the topic. Where are you going now? It's like this, Qingyi and I have discussed it, and we've decided to look at some houses and move out. Are you rich now? Qingyi is now Miss Lotus Sun's Sherfu. Miss Sun said that as long as it's a property under Huaguo Water Curtain Group, you can just tell her if you like any property. Then, I wish you happiness, Gu Xuanji said. Then he walked to his bedroom without looking back. Logically speaking, he shouldn't be feeling so down. Since he knew that his mother wasn't Lu Qingyi herself, he should be happy. However, too many things had happened today, and the amount of information was too much. For a moment, Gu Xuanji felt like he had indigestion. What happened to him? Wang Zhen was a little puzzled by Gu Xuanji's reaction. In any case, the three of us are from the domain of the gods. If we leave just like that, wouldn't it be bad to leave him here? Lu Qingyi said worriedly. You're right. Then we can just find him a roommate, Wang Zhen said. You mean Zhao Qingxian? In any case, we've already moved out and are together, so there's nothing to be afraid of. Wang Zhen suddenly hugged Lu Qingyi like a giant wolf dog. This fatty has never been a law-abiding person in the domain of the gods. In any case, old Gu is a keeper of order. I believe Zhao Qingxian won't act too rashly under the watchful eyes of a keeper of order. You're right. Lu Qingyi nodded. Also, I remember that the Zhao family also runs a beast shop in the domain of the gods. He can also help Wei Ji. At the very least, he's much better than us two idiots. Wang Zhen laughed. Where's Zhao Qingxian now? I asked around before. He's suspicious because he's an unregistered resident. He's still in the detention center. Okay. I'll call Rongrong later and have her arrange for someone to get Zhao Qingxian here. What do you want to eat tonight? Western or Chinese? Wang Zhen asked. Either is fine. Lu Qingyi smiled. Then barbecue? That's too oily. Is there anything else? Hot pot. Hot pot is so boring, it's all sauce. Then what do you think? Either is fine. Thursday, December 3rd. It was the day Lotus Sun was officially discharged from the hospital. At her request, the old man chose to keep a low profile. He didn't make a big deal out of it, nor did he find a bunch of reporters to hold a press conference or something like that. After experiencing this incident, Old Man Sun truly felt that his precious granddaughter seemed to have matured a lot. She had become more prudent in doing things. It's said that classmate Wang Ling likes to keep a low profile. I'm afraid that Rongrong has also been influenced by him. In the car, Old Man Sun was actually very pleased. Everyone had been young once. Under the basic conditions of being in love, one's behavior would also lean toward the person they liked, and then some changes would occur. For example, if a person who wasn't good at academics fell in love with a straight-A student, then perhaps they would put a lot more effort into their studies. Doing your best to keep in step with the person you liked was also part of being in love. Hence, Old Man Sun was very clear about his own position in Lotus Sun's pursuit of Wang Ling. He could only be a long-range support, and couldn't interfere too much. Furthermore, he couldn't use his own company's wealth and power to disrupt classmate Wang Ling's life. Not only would this cause trouble for Wang Ling, it would also thwart his precious granddaughter's plans. Rongrong, you can do it. Old Man Sun couldn't help cheering in his heart as he watched the girl walk into the villa. Old Master, where are we going now? To Battle Sect. I have an appointment with Director Zhua. Okay. The driver nodded and quickly stepped on the gas. Back in her bedroom, Lotus Sun saw that the furniture that had been burned down by the great sacrificial spell had been restored, and were all newly bought, just as they had been before she left. Knowing that Lotus Sun was being discharged today, Auntie Chio had ordered the exact same furniture in advance, and had someone install it overnight. Thank you, Auntie Chio. Lotus Sun smiled politely at Auntie Chio. Miss, you're too kind. This is something this old one should do. I have other things to do. If Miss needs anything else, Just give me a call. Okay. Lotus Sun nodded. She saw Auntie Chiu respectfully withdraw and close the door. She couldn't wait to turn on her computer. There were too many things recorded in the cloud disk. The girl had only seen less than 10% of them in the hospital. And now, those when she was in her soul state. Bits and pieces of memories that she had personally recorded in her little notebook. In an instant, all of them had been released. Chapter 1354. Lotus Sun connected her laptop to the printer and printed out all the sketches she had drawn. They were of Wang Ling's face from various angles, and in just a few minutes, her desk was covered with them. I actually drew so many sketches of classmate Wang Ling. The girl blushed and shyly buried her face in the pile of paper. Although they were all sketches of Wang Ling, none of them were complete. This was because Lotus Sun had learned about the Great Shielding Spell from Ajwa in the Buddha Golden Lotus. Once the protective mechanism was activated, her sketches would turn into a pile of mosaics. So in order to prevent this from happening, Lotus Sun hadn't finished the sketches. Classmate Wang Ling with ellipses on his face was also very cute. The girl flipped through the portraits and saw a few sketches that she had highlighted. She remembered now. She had drawn them on Palm Cliff Heaven Puppet. In addition to the pictures, there were also some words she had written. Today, a groundhog brought me to Earth 1 second later, but I didn't feel the slightest bit afraid. Because I believed that classmate Wang Ling would definitely come to save me. Don't be afraid. I'm coming. Classmate Wang Ling. The message you left for me in the shadow may be 2 sentences I will never forget. Then you broke free of all the shadows and appeared in my world like light. What I wrote is too mushy. The girl blushed as she finished reading the words in the pictures. She couldn't believe that she had actually written something like this. She couldn't bear to read any more, but curiosity kept driving her to flip through the messages left behind. Senior Ajwa. He actually called me Master's wife. It was a picture of her returning to Battle Sect after Wang Ling had rescued her from the groundhog. Like a weeping beauty, Ajwa had thrown himself at her and loudly called her Master's wife in front of everyone. This incredible scene appeared in her mind as her memories kept coming back to her. In a split second, 2 streams of hot steam gushed out of her ears. I have to cool you down. Otherwise, it will be dangerous. Sun Yinger appeared and obediently sat on the edge of the soft bed, swinging her slender legs. Release steam from your ears. This was the effect of the cooling spell, and Sun Yinger would perform it on his behalf depending on the situation. Lower the temperature. Your temperature is too high now. A girl in love has to keep a cool head at all times in order to win in the end, right? Sun Yinger giggled. That stinky Wang Ying wants me to protect you. So sometimes, some necessary measures will be taken. You're still protecting me? Aren't you always being bullied by Wang Ying? Lotus Sun also laughed. Bully? No way. I will definitely turn over and become the master, and fight with him to the end, Sun Yinger said resolutely. But as she said this, she suddenly felt that her body was indeed a little uncomfortable. It was all because Wang Ying's planet-knocking art was too powerful yesterday. You don't feel well? Do you need me to give you a massage? Great. Rongrong is the best. Mwah. Sun Yinger rushed over and kissed Lotus Sun on the cheek. It's all this Death King's shadow's fault. 406 times. Finished in one night. My back hurts from the collision. Lotus Sun. Sun Yinger. Hey, Rongrong. Why is your face red again? Heh. Eat my cooling spell. Elsewhere in Battle Sect, Old Man Sun and Ajwa had arranged to meet in the true venerated Great Hall. After exchanging greetings, they took their seats. A Battle Sect disciple came over to serve them tea. After the tea was served, the disciple tactfully withdrew and closed the door. He made sure that no one would disturb them in the Great Hall. Director Zhua, I'm here today for one thing only. I'm a straightforward person, and I don't beat around the bush, so I hope that you can be honest with me. Old Man Sun smiled. As for the benefits, I'm sure you'll get them as well. I know that the Alliance of 10,000 Schools is about to elect a new leader. If you don't hide anything from me, I'll do my best to garner votes for you. Ajwa smiled. Mr. Sun, you're exaggerating. Sugar-coated bullets don't work on me. I want to hear your question first. If it involves a friend's secret, I naturally won't say a word. As expected, Director Zhua is a loyal man. Old Man Sun nodded. What he had said just now was just a test, and Audiobook indeed hadn't disappointed him. Actually, whether or not he got the answer he wanted from Audiobook, Old Man Sun would still help him in canvassing for votes. He knew that Audiobook had also put in a lot of effort behind the scenes in Lotus Sun's matter this time. There was no way he, Sunny Yuan, would not return this favor. Don't worry, Director Zhua. What I want to discuss this time isn't your friend's secret. It's Director Zhua's own secret. Old Man Sun smiled. Audiobook's expression froze slightly at these words. His secret was none other than his relationship with Wang Ling. Could it be that he had already been exposed? That shouldn't be the case. Audiobook frowned. So, Mr. Sun, what do you want to ask? In such a short period of time, Director Zhua was able to rise to the position of Director of the General Administration of 10,000 schools and repeatedly perform miraculous feats. He is deeply favored by Secretary Sun of the Alliance of 10,000 Schools. In fact, I'm here this time to find out more about student Wang Ling, Old Man Sun. So, I need to confirm whether the relationship between Director Zhua and student Wang Ling isn't as simple as it seems on the surface. Audiobook's expression darkened. Student Wang Ling and I are just a normal senior and junior brother. The same as student Lotus Sunday, not necessarily Director Zhua. At that moment, Old Man Sun chuckled. Since I'm here today, I'm definitely prepared. I never fight when I'm unprepared. I'm certain that Director Zhua and student Wang Ling's relationship isn't as simple as it seems. Audiobook, where on earth did you get this information, Mr. Sun? It's just the result of a precise analysis of the information I've gathered. Hearing this, Old Man Sun chuckled. So Director Zhua just admit it. Audiobook feigned ignorance. Admit what? Old Man Sun. You? Student Wang Ling Shifu. Am I right? Audiobook. P.S. I've seen your reaction regarding the issue of blocking the Immortal King web version. This is actually an anti-piracy measure. If you want to be the first to see updates, you can only do so through the Qidian reading app. I know that there are a lot of Immortal King chapters, and some of you can't afford to read pirated versions. I hope you don't publicize it, and can just read it secretly. But if you've caught up with the latest chapters, I hope you can come to the original version and spend a few cents a day to support Pai Pai Ku's creation. The more readers there are of the original version, the better the motivation to create. _smiley face, angle _. Chapter 1355. Audiobook felt that this might be the biggest scapegoat he had ever carried in his life. It could only be said that Old Man Sun was in the end Old Man Sunday. This ability to avoid the right answer. It turned out that you were the legendary, ultimate Maori Little Wulong. At least there were times when Little Wulong got it right, but Audiobook realized that the amazing thing about Old Man Sun was that he always seemed to be able to perfectly avoid all the right answers. Who would have thought that I would still be found out? At that moment, Audiobook rested his chin on his fingers and leaned forward with his elbows on his knees, pretending to be deep in thought. Now that things had come to this, he couldn't deny it. Although this was a huge scapegoat, now that things had come to this, he could only accept it. In the end, Director Zhua admitted it. Old Man Sun looked like he had everything under control. He was absolutely confident that he would be able to make Audiobook admit to this matter, mainly because he had enough evidence on hand. How did Mr. Sun find out about this? Audiobook was very curious about this. You and classmate Wang have known each other for a long time, perhaps even before number 60 High's first Spirit Sword Exchange meet. As for what happened that day at the Spirit Sword Exchange meet, I specifically asked Rongrong about it. Old Man Sun began to make a brilliant deduction. Rongrong said that in your solo Spirit Sword performance, you chose classmate Wang's Peachwood Sword at first glance. This was actually a subconscious action, which means that the relationship between the two of you is no trivial matter. Audiobook. Is there any other evidence? Of course there is. Old Man Sun nodded. Director Zhua defeated the Demon King Sky-Swallowing Toad back then. And now that Toad has turned into a dog. There are so many students at number 60 High, so why did this dog stay at classmate Wang Ling's house? It's obvious that this is your greeting gift to classmate Wang Ling. It's true that this toad is a demon king, but you were the one who defeated it back then, so it definitely listens to everything you say. By putting it at classmate Wang Ling's house, you're actually protecting him." Old Man Sun laughed. This kind of master's concern for his disciple is a little too obvious. Hearing this, the corners of Ajua's mouth twitched. Mr. Sun is really smart and brave. Of course, there's also the decisive evidence, which is Director Zhua's close visit to classmate Wang Ling's house. "Mr. Sun is following me?" Ajua frowned. "It can't be considered tracking. It's just some technical methods." Old Man Sun said lightly. "The metal pin to Director Zhua's chest actually has a tracking function. In the past, your badge location has frequently appeared at classmate Wang Ling's house. I'm afraid this has already surpassed the relationship between a senior and a junior, right?" Hearing this, Ajua already couldn't help applauding. "As expected of Mr. Sun, your reasoning ability leaves me in the dust. It's just some insignificant tricks. I was able to sit in this position because of my extraordinary reasoning ability." Old Man Sun couldn't help but sigh when he said that. In the past, he was dealing in elixirs. Now he was dealing in stocks. Elixirs were considered a physical industry, and now there were fully automated production machines. Other than rare elixirs, most elixirs could be produced automatically by machines, and there was not much manual skill involved. Over time, Sun Yiyuan started to learn how to analyze stocks. The stock market was still the most exciting. Thanks to his logical analysis, Huaguo Water Curtain Group had made a lot of money in the last few years. "Director Zhua, if you're interested, you can listen to my stock lessons. Of course, these are top-secret lessons for the group. Old Man Sun knows about stocks. It's just some insignificant analysis, and it's Jiang Xiaoche who's in charge. It's my secretary whom Director Zhua met earlier." Ajua, although he didn't dare be 100% sure. He could roughly guess that this Jiang Xiaoche had most likely done the opposite of what Old Man Sun had said. Ajua couldn't help sighing in his heart. It really wasn't easy for Huaguo Water Curtain Group to grow to such a scale. He smiled bitterly. "Mr. Sun came to confirm your identity with me today to ask about my disciple." Ajua braced himself as he said this. At the same time, he moaned and cried out in his heart, hoping that Wang Ling wouldn't blame him. "Shifu, disciple really didn't mean to take advantage of you. Even your father-in-law came to investigate. Disciple has to take the blame." Sun Yiyuan was delighted to hear this. He had long known that Ajua was a sensible person. It was also for this reason that he was deeply liked by Secretary Sunday. In fact, Sun Yiyuan felt that even if he didn't help Ajua pull in votes, he would sooner or later be able to sit at the top of the alliance on his own. "I knew that Director Zhua was a smart man." Old Man Sun was overjoyed. What this old man wanted to ask isn't anything important. "I just wanted to ask about classmate Wang Ling's hobbies. Or his family's hobbies." "Crispy noodle snacks," said Ajua. "What?" Sun Yiyuan thought he had heard wrong. "It's a small snack. So that's how it is." Old Man Sun sighed. "No wonder when classmate Wang went to the hospital to see how my family's Rongrong was doing, he didn't even look at the high-end snacks I had people prepare." Ajua smiled. "But ordinary crispy noodle snacks are already very difficult to catch my disciple's eye." "That's easy. I can find someone to order them. I'll hire the best noodle chef in the world to make them on the spot. Mr. Sun is really generous, but if you really do this, my disciple might be disgusted." "I know." Old Man Sun said. "Classmate Wang likes to keep a low profile. I'll have a noodle chef appear next to him without anyone noticing." Ajua. Sun Yiyuan. "Then, what do classmate Wang's parents like?" Ajua. "My disciple's father is an online entrepreneur." "Oh. I know that. Monthly votes. Recommendation votes. Tips." Old Man Sun was excited. "What's his pen name? I can arrange it for him right now." "His pen name is Wang Situ. So he's Wang Situ." Old Man Sun was startled. Given his relationship with the head of state, he naturally knew that the latter had been chasing after the writings of someone called Wang Situ. It was just that Sun Yiyuan had never expected the world to be so small. This Wang Situ was actually classmate Wang Ling's father. Chapter 1356. Audiobook hadn't expected Old Man Sun to be so concerned about his Shifu. However, after the conversation he felt that there was no need to be too wary of Sun Yuan. Old Man Sun was indeed a deductive genius, but he was also someone who knew how to take care of other people's feelings. It was precisely because he knew his master's low-key personality that he had specially arranged for a time to ask him about the situation. Otherwise, with Old Man Sun's temper, he would have visited his in-laws with many bags. Strategy was a long-term plan. Feelings needed to be nurtured slowly. Old Man Sun understood this principle. The more he wished for his precious granddaughter to be able to truly obtain happiness, the more he wished for her. The more one couldn't use money and sugar-coated bullets to try to buy other people's feelings. This was an impolite behavior, and it was also a kind of disrespect to others. Thank you, Director Zhua. My trip today wasn't in vain. I understand everything now. Before he left, Old Man Sun bowed respectfully to Audiobook. Director Zhua, please rest assured about what happened today. Heaven and earth will know. I'll keep everything to myself. Mr. Sun, you're too polite. Audiobook smiled and returned the salute with cupped fists. Old Man Sun laughed out loud and shouted, "Immortal luck prospers." Then he flicked his sleeves and left. Looking at Old Man Sun's retreating back, Audiobook heaved a long sigh of relief. Are you sure Brother Ling won't be angry? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal walked out of the office. He had been eavesdropping on the side for a long time. As long as we have crispy noodle snacks, everything is negotiable. Mr. Sun is a smart man, he should have some tricks up his sleeve. Audiobook rubbed his chin. In fact, he didn't dare to guarantee what would happen next. Elsewhere, Songhai First Military Medical Hospital. After being locked up for several days, Lotus Sun arranged for Zhao Qingxian to be bailed out and admitted to the hospital for a checkup. Earth was too dangerous. He had only just arrived here and had not done anything, yet he was already accused of forcibly molesting a male. How tragic could it be? Mr. Zhao, because we haven't been able to find your identity information so far, you are still under our strict surveillance. Before the bed, a police officer said with a solemn expression, after all the checks are done, you will be restricted to our specific apartment. You will be supervised by a special supervisor. Zhao Qingxian. Then when can I get rid of the suspicion? That's hard to say. The police officer spread his hands and stared at Zhao Qingxian. Behave yourself. A doctor will come over later to examine your body. He wasn't worried that Zhao Qingxian would run away because Zhao Qingxian had the spirit shackles on his ankles. With most of his spiritual power restricted, Zhao Qingxian had nowhere to go. Helpless, Zhao Qingxian could only lie down obediently. As soon as the police officer left, Zhao Qingxian saw a seriously ill patient covered in bandages being pushed to the bed next to him by a female nurse. This person was none other than Fan Xing. After several surgeries by the hospital, Fan Xing's recovery was relatively good, but there was still a long time before he could fully recover. Of course, even if Fan Xing made a full recovery afterwards, Fan Xing was destined to have no happiness in his life. Brother? Bro. Zhao Qingxian tried to talk to Fan Xing. It wasn't because he was bored, but because he felt that he had found an opportunity from Fan Xing. Now he was being inexplicably monitored by the police, and had even been charged with a groundless crime. With such a serious crime on him, his plans on Earth would be greatly hindered. In addition, the spirit shackles on his ankles suppressed most of his spiritual power. It definitely wouldn't be easy for him to escape. But in any case, he was a domain of the gods cultivator. Even with the 2 anklet versions of the spirit shackles, it was still possible to cast some small spells. Now, Fan Xing's body was ravaged and he was delirious, but this gave Zhao Qingxian a sliver of an opportunity. So, I can only try. Temporary soul switching technique. Zhao Qingxian suddenly had a plan in his mind. This spell was actually a simplified version of the possession spell. When cast on a delirious person, the success rate would be greatly increased. Once it was cast successfully, the soul exchange effect would be realized within 72 hours. So, it didn't matter even if the person wasn't satisfied with the body. After 72 hours, the body would be swapped back. This was a simple body swapping game. Zhao Qingxian used a simple spell to determine that Fan Xing wasn't completely immobile. It was just that his depression was hindering his movements. As for the specific situation, he just had to wait for the soul exchange to be completed and personally appraise it. He still had some pills that could help Fan Xing recover from his injuries quickly. These were all life-saving items he had brought from the domain of the gods, and their effects couldn't be compared to those on Earth. This wasn't the first time he had thought of leaving this fat body. Zhao Qingxian had ingested a lot of sugar since he was young because of the half-moon robe Shingongli. This caused Zhao Qingxian's body to expand abnormally, to the point where he couldn't control or restrain himself anymore. The rules in the domain of the gods were strict, and Zhao Qingxian had never dared think of possessing someone. Now on Earth he had found an opportunity. Moreover, Fan Xing's facial features were fine. If he used this face to seduce Lu Qingyi, Zhao Qingxian felt that not only could he hide his identity, but he could also greatly increase his chances of success. Bro. I'm sorry. Zhao Qingxian thought about it. In the end, he finally made up his mind to make a move on Fan Xing. Fan Xing saw Zhao Qingxian reach out to him. His first reaction was naturally to struggle, but it was already too late. In an instant, a dazzling light burst out from the top of their heads. The soul exchange was complete. Fan Xing's soul returned to Zhao Qingxian's body, but his hand was still on Fan Xing's body. The young police officer turned pale with fright when he entered and hurriedly pulled Zhao Qingxian away. You pervert. I knew you wouldn't even let a man off. Fan Xing, who had been swapped into Zhao Qingxian's body, felt very wronged. He couldn't speak at all because Zhao Qingxian had cast a silence spell on him before the soul exchange. So Fan Xing couldn't speak for a while. Success! Zhao Qingxian had successfully seized Fan Xing's body. But after a simple inspection, the smile on Zhao Qingxian's face gradually froze. F***CK. This man actually didn't have balls. He had suffered a loss this time. Chapter 1357. The reason why the Zhao family was able to establish a foothold in the divine realm and rank in the top 10 was because of this. In fact, it was also due to the various strange techniques that the Zhao family had mastered. To put it bluntly, it was because their imagination was too wild, resulting in the increase of all kinds of strange knowledge. Then, based on the foundation of the heavenly Tao, they developed some strange spells. Some of these spells were very strong, but some were also very weak. After many years of experimentation, the head of the Zhao family had naturally mastered countless strange spells. Although Zhao Qingxian was his legitimate son, he was ignorant and incompetent. However, because he was ignorant and incompetent, even though he had inherited many things from him, most of them were just second-rate weapons. At this moment, Zhao Qingxian, who had swapped his soul into Fan Xing's body, was slightly at a loss for what to do in front of him. Fan Xing's facial features were passable, but as a man he lacked important equipment. It still wouldn't work. However, after the temporary soul-swapping spell was activated, it couldn't be used repeatedly. He had to wait for the spell to expire before his body would automatically switch back. However, Zhao Qingxian couldn't wait any longer. He pulled out the various infusion tubes in his body and picked up the storage ring on the ground. This ring had been deliberately thrown in the corner by Zhao Qingxian before he swapped bodies. Although he had swapped bodies, the soul in Fan Xing's body was still Zhao Qingxian. Therefore, opening the storage ring was simply a piece of cake. Zhao Qingxian took out a heavenly restoration pill that was worth 1 billion immortal gold bars. He sneered. A mere miscellaneous cultivator from Earth. You've really lucked out. He threw the pill into his stomach, and a warm stream of spiritual power flowed out of his blood vessels, nourishing his whole body and repairing his damaged body. Zhao Qingxian could clearly feel that his body's condition was improving. This was a life-saving medicine that he had brought down from the divine realm. He had brought a total of 6 pills. As long as he wasn't instantly killed by a palm strike and was still breathing, this pill would be able to save his life. Although Fan Xing's physical condition was somewhat bad, with all the fractures and meridians in his body, although they had all been reconnected, to recover from such injuries, with the current level of spiritual medicine on Earth, even if he used the best medicinal herbs to nourish himself every day. Without 2 years of recuperation, it was impossible to recover to the standard of a normal person. But now, a single medicinal pill from Zhao Qingxian had instantly healed his injuries. He was still absorbing the medicine, but Zhao Qingxian could already feel that he had regained his ability to move. Then he pulled up his pants to take a look, and there was still some disappointment on his face. Even such a miraculous medicine can't regenerate my organs. However, Zhao Qingxian had mastered many strange techniques, so it was not completely impossible to repair it. Looks like I have to make a deal with the river god. He thought of a secret technique. Although it was risky, it was worth a try. In any case, this body wasn't his right now. If it really didn't work, he could just wait for the time limit to run out and choose someone else to swap bodies with. Elsewhere, at the entrance of Lotus Sun's villa, a handsome monk was paying a visit by the huge fountain. Auntie Chiu, who was cleaning in front of the door, bowed very politely when faced with the monk who suddenly appeared. She smiled and said, "Master, if you are here to solicit alms, please follow me." As expected of Miss Lotus Sun's subordinate, Monk Jin Deng performed a Buddhist salute. He had always been polite to well-educated people. "Master, you know my young mistress? My Dharma name is Golden Lamp. Please inform her that I have something important to discuss with Miss Sunday." So it was the young mistress's friend. Qiu Shuyun marveled inwardly at her young mistress's wide circle of friends. "Please wait a moment, master." Auntie Qiu nodded. She immediately went to the door and raised the internal telephone to confirm the situation with Lotus Sunday. In less than half a minute, Auntie Qiu had received a definite answer. She strolled over to the monk and invited him in. The monk was brought directly to Lotus Sun's room by Aunt Qiu. Inside, the young girl was sitting on the sofa, and 2 maids were placing vegetarian pastries and tea on the coffee table. Their movements were swift, and it didn't take long for them to finish arranging everything for the reception. "Leave us. No one is allowed to come in until I call for you," Lotus Sun ordered. "Yes." The 2 maids bowed, and then quickly retreated. When there were no outsiders in the room, the monk said, "Miss Sun is still as considerate and thoughtful as ever. Seeing that Miss Sun's complexion has returned to normal, this monk is also much more relieved." "Master, please sit down." Lotus Sun maintained a smile on her face. "I'm grateful for everything you've done for me that I'm safe and sound this time, Master. I will definitely repay you in the future. What I've done is insignificant. If Miss Sun wants to thank someone, you should thank Ling Jinren." The monk smiled. "A monk doesn't ask for anything in return. I didn't come here this time to ask for a gift in return, Miss Sunday. May I ask what is it, Master?" Lotus Sun asked. This humble monk came here this time to ask what kind of magic artifact Miss Sun wants. "Magic artifact? Miss Sun, have you forgotten? You're the champion of this year's Battle Sect face-shaping competition, and the first person to pinch Ling Jinren's face." As soon as the monk said this, 2 streams of steam whistled out of the young girl's ears like dragons. But very quickly, the young girl's rapidly rising temperature returned to normal under the effect of the spell. Sun Yinger emerged from the state of a shadow and turned into a real body. She suddenly appeared beside the girl and lay on the girl's knees with her limbs spread out. "Monk Jin Deng, I think you should just buy an electric fan for Rongrong. That way I won't have to use the cooling spell on her every day." "Inger, don't be rude." Sun Yinger's blunt personality had always been a headache for Lotus Sunday. "You don't have to pay so much attention to etiquette in front of this humble monk." The monk smiled. He looked Sun Yinger up and down. If it weren't for the difference in hair color and personality, when the 2 of them sat side by side, the monk felt like he was looking at a pair of twins. "Miss Sun can have whatever kind of magic artifact you want. This humble monk can do most of them." At that moment, the monk glanced at her. "How about this? This humble monk can give Miss Sun a few directions." "Directions?" "Yes." The monk nodded. Magic artifacts can be classified into 3 types based on their functions: offensive magic artifacts, defensive magic artifacts, and auxiliary magic artifacts. This humble monk has just deduced that Miss Sun might need an auxiliary magic artifact. "What do you mean, Master?" Lotus Sun asked curiously. Doesn't missing, or have low back pain? This humble monk can create a magic artifact to relieve it, the monk said. But Inger's low back pain was caused by Wang Ying's wall-tapping spell. Although this humble monk has blessed Miss Sun's body, that doesn't mean she can do whatever she wants. What does that have to do with me? The monk said seriously. Then is Miss Sun so sure that she won't hurt in the future? Lotus Sun? Question mark. Chapter 1358. It could only be said that monks were monks after all. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to understand the deeper meaning behind a monk's words. Lotus Sun felt that if even monks became more reserved these days, then no one else would be able to. Miss Sun's face is actually so red. The monk felt that the girl might have thought of something strange. He could actually read minds, but he felt that he had to give the girl in front of him enough respect. It was impolite to casually read minds. But this also made it impossible for the monk to truly understand her thoughts when he faced her. He could only guess to solve the problem. What this monk means is that after this incident, Miss Sun will have to learn how to protect herself. In fact, the auxiliary magic tool I'm talking about isn't just for the waist. It can also be used on other parts of the body, the monk said. From what I see, Rongrong doesn't seem to like it very much. Isn't the best protection from offense? Monk, why don't you upgrade Rongrong's spirit sword? At this time, Sun Yinger suggested a new idea. Upgrade the spirit sword? The monk nodded. That wasn't a bad choice. Monk, this is my sword. The next moment, she opened her hand, and a beam of azure spirit light shot out from her palm. She summoned Mysterious Sea. After the battle on Nine Dragon Mountain, her Mysterious Sea group had suffered heavy losses. Although the group had already spent a lot of money on cloning, it would still take a long time for them to recover to the original 48 Mysterious Seas. Using the technique of cloning spirit swords to achieve a sword-spirit linkage with the main body, the monk saw through the secret hidden in Mysterious Sea at a glance. This could indeed greatly increase her battle strength, but at the same time, it would also put a huge burden on her body. Controlling so many spirit swords would greatly test the spirit energy and mental strength of the original owner. It was like a computer running multiple programs at the same time overheating. Over time, it might even cause irreversible damage to the body. Miss Sun, in the future, don't use clone swords to perform a sword-spirit linkage. This monk has a better way, the monk said. Although the girl's body had been blessed by him, and using the sword-spirit linkage technique wouldn't endanger her life, the monk didn't want her to use such a painful method to increase her battle strength. Does the monk have a better suggestion? She asked curiously. I can modify the main body of Mysterious Sea and turn it into a giant sword spirit container. I can have it continuously replicate and clone itself in the container. In this case, it will actually achieve the effect of a sword spirit linkage. The monk said. In fact, I think this is the ultimate evolution. As long as the modification is successful, Miss Lotus Sun's Mysterious Sea will never be destroyed. She only needs to control a single sword to summon billions of Mysterious Seas to do battle. You can do that. Lotus Sun covered her mouth in surprise. She knew how powerful the monk was, so she had no doubt that he could do it. These Mysterious Seas, which are constantly being duplicated in the containers, can also be combined to increase their combat power. As long as there are enough copies and clones, theoretically, Miss Sun's combat strength will have the possibility of unlimited growth. The monk said with a smile. Although Miss Sun is only at the Foundation establishment realm, as long as you have this sword, this penniless monk can't guarantee that you can defeat 99% of people on Earth. Then does the remaining 1% belong to Grandmaster and classmate Wang Ling? Lotus Sun smiled. They must have brought us along, but there might be other experts. Tyrant nodded and replied. But to upgrade the Mysterious Sea, I still need 2 more things. What is it? I need missing or to provide me with a law of splitting, the monk said. The idea of upgrading Mysterious Sea into a sword spirit super container was the monk's crazy idea based on Sun Yinger's Shadow Dao ability. However, this matter involved the secret of Sun Yinger's law. Tyrant thought that Sun Yinger wouldn't say it easily. In the end, the white-haired girl in front of him was much more straightforward than the monk had imagined. That's easy. Rongrong and I are one. Helping Rongrong is also helping me. All right then. The monk nodded. As for the second item, it's the Heavenly Tao magic cube that I obtained when I Ling Jinren went to wipe out the unspeakable a while ago. Since missing, has agreed to hand over the nomological patterns, then this matter is settled. But isn't that classmate Wang Ling's thing? Lotus Sun frowned. Wouldn't it be bad to ask for it like this? Ling Jinren won't refuse. The monk said confidently, the Heavenly Tao magic cube is certainly precious, but in Ling Jinren's eyes, it's actually worthless. At this point, Monk Jin Dang suddenly paused and turned to look at the girl. Compared with the Heavenly Tao magic cube, Ling Jinren actually knows very well that he has something more precious. What are you talking about, great master? Lotus Sun was a little embarrassed. Miss Sun, no need to be embarrassed. This poor monk thinks that Ling Jinren will have an epiphany sooner or later. You just need to be a little more patient. Aren't you a monk? Why do you look like you know so much? At that moment, Sun Yinger moved closer and couldn't help asking. Miss Inger, you may not know, but this poor monk was once an emperor. I had a harem of 3,000 beauties, of course I know. Great master was an emperor. Lotus Sun was stunned. I don't feel anything else, just that my back hurts. Elsewhere, Zhao Qingxian borrowed Fan Xing's body. He snatched a jar of specimens from the hospital's biological dissection room, then quickly left the hospital. His first task was, of course, to fix his own shortcomings. Zhao Qingxian found the river closest to Shanghai First Military Medical Hospital, and as soon as he reached it, he couldn't wait to start casting a spell. He was ready to summon the Heavenly Tao River God. This was how cultivators in the domain of the gods generally conducted an equivalent exchange. Usually, it was the Heavenly Tao River God who did this on their behalf. Not everyone had the right to meet the Heavenly Tao Little Golden Man directly for a fair and equivalent exchange. Actually, even though it was called an equivalent exchange, only the Heavenly Tao Little Golden Man could truly achieve it. Compared with the Heavenly Tao Golden Man, most cultivators in the domain of the gods actually couldn't get anything out of the Heavenly Tao River God. But now, Zhao Qingxian had no other choice. River God, please hear my call. In front of the river, Zhao Qingxian made a hand seal and muttered something. Whoosh! A slender figure soared into the sky from the calm surface of the river, following the sound. A handsome young man with phoenix eyes and long hair wearing a flower hairpin appeared in front of Zhao Qingxian. Droplets of water slid down the young man's well-proportioned muscles, giving off an intoxicating watery glow. His whole body surged with the supreme aura of Heavenly Tao, and when he opened his mouth, Zhao Qingxian came back to his senses. Young Zhao Qingxian, did you throw this golden elephant egg or this silver elephant egg? An elephant? Zhao Qingxian was startled. Wasn't the specimen he had stolen a human's? Chapter 1359. Why was there an elephant specimen in the hospital? Zhao Qingxian's face darkened. In the next moment, he began to struggle. At this time, if he did not choose anything, then both the golden and silver eggs would be his. However, the problem was that if these two things were hung below, how could he walk? Even if he could walk, it would be easy for him to get into trouble. For a moment, Zhao Qingxian was in a dilemma, because if he chose to lie or choose not to accept anything, he would be severely punished by the river god. Therefore, Zhao Qingxian sighed, and could only tell the truth. Lord River God, these are not mine. My original intention was. You don't have to explain anymore. The handsome river god with phoenix eyes had already seen through Zhao Qingxian's heart. With a cold expression, he threw the golden and silver eggs in his hands into the river. Then he looked at Zhao Qingxian with the aura of a boss. Do you understand the rules? Tianyuan Guixin pill. Zhao Qingxian gritted his teeth and took out 2 pills without hesitation. This is my tribute to the river god. 2 pills for 2, huh? Hey, you know what's good for you. The river god raised his finger and swept the 2 pills away. According to the law of equivalent exchange, the parts you lose are actually irreversible. Therefore, when I return the things to you, another part of your body will disappear randomly. But don't worry, the parts that disappear will not affect your life. This Zhao Qingxian did not expect that he would be in such a situation after losing 2 pills. He wanted to ask the river god to return the pills to him, but the river god's expression quickly turned cold. Do you want to go back on your word? The consequences of going back on your word are very serious. Zhao Qingxian knew that he had no other choice. All right then. I only have one request. I hope that the river god will not make me bald. As for other parts, losing a finger or something is not a problem. You're quite open-minded. The river god chuckled. However, according to the principle of equivalent exchange, the parts that disappear are random. Even I can't control it. You better pray for yourself. As soon as he finished speaking, the aura on the river god's body suddenly changed. A strange feeling of the supreme Tao emanated from his body. The mystery of the mystery of the door. In this place, all sorts of illusions and illusions were born. Feeling the power of the heavenly path river god at such a close distance, Zhao Qingxian felt as if the whole world had calmed down at this moment. In fact, every time he made a deal with the river god of the heavenly way, it was a great opportunity for him to experience the laws of the heavenly way up close. However, the duration of this feeling was too short, and it always gave people a feeling of wanting more. Transaction complete. About 10 seconds later, the river god opened his phoenix eyes again. Zhao Qingxian asked, "Did you succeed?" The river god nodded. "It's a success." Zhao Qingxian excitedly pulled open his pants to take a look. The next moment, it was as if he was struck by lightning. He was extremely shocked by the scene in front of him. Lord River God. The river god raised his eyebrows. "What is it?" Zhao Qingxian roared. "You put the eggs back and took away my youtiao. What's the use of this?" The river deity smiled. "From now on, you are the new old man with eggs." After saying that, he turned into a puddle of water and melted into the river, leaving Zhao Qingxian alone on the riverbank in the wind. Why am I so unlucky after coming to Earth? After who knew how much time had passed, Zhao Qingxian crouched down on the riverbank with his head in his hands. The expression on his face was one of pain, full of the mental breakdown of an adult. All of this was actually just as the monk had said at the beginning. As cultivators in the domain of the gods, life in the domain of the gods was too easy. In order to ensure that the younger generation's cultivation path would be more stable, the elders had paved all kinds of paths for them in advance. They were afraid that these descendants would trip on the road. The overly comfortable life had also caused these cultivators who had walked out of the divine domain to become mentally weak. Wang Zhen, Lu Qingyi and the others had all suffered losses before. Fortunately, they had also grown very quickly. Their tempering on earth had made their hearts more resolute, their spirits more resilient, and they had become more tactful in handling things. Zhao Qingxian currently didn't have any of this growth. Is it painful? At that moment, a figure appeared behind Zhao Qingxian. This person wore a black cloak and had a neat black buzz cut. He had sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, and looked like a man who had walked out of a comic book. Zhao Qingxian didn't know this man, but this man seemed to know him, and seemed to know everything about him. The man stretched out his hand, and Zhao Qingxian was stunned by his jade-white hand with distinct fingers. It was hard for him to imagine that a man's hand could be so delicate. The other party stretched out a finger and lightly tapped his forehead. In the next moment, Zhao Qingxian suddenly felt that his missing part had actually returned. This? He was utterly astonished. It's just an illusion, that's all. The man smiled. Senior. Zhao Qingxian knelt down. You're welcome. The man helped Zhao Qingxian up and was extremely gentle. My name is Yang Shuangji. You can also call me Mr. Shuangji. Mr. Shuangji. Zhao Qingxian carefully mulled over this name, and at the same time his expression was extremely astonished. I don't know Mr. Shuangji. May I ask why Mr. Shuangji is helping me? Life is full of hardships, but it's nothing. The man called Shuangji smiled. At that moment, Zhao Qingxian noticed a string of Buddha beads around the man's neck. Each bead was the size of a walnut, which gave Zhao Qingxian a sense of déjà vu. This was because Zhao Qingxian seemed to have seen the vein patterns on it somewhere before. Do you know your crime for going against the heavens? At that moment, on the originally calm river surface, a solemn voice rang out like the illusory sound of the great Tao. Zhao Qingxian felt a piercing pain in his ears. Just as he was about to kneel on the ground, Mr. Shuangji, who was next to him, tapped his ear lightly and easily quantified this force. The handsome heavenly Tao river god who had previously disappeared reappeared, and stared at the man who had suddenly appeared in front of him with a pair of phoenix eyes. Obviously, he was very dissatisfied with Mr. Shuangji's meddling. If you have the ability, you can go against the heavens. May I know what crime I have committed? Mr. Shuangji took a step forward, his body surrounded by golden light. The most sacred of Buddhist studies? The heavenly Tao river god was extremely surprised. Lord River God, please step back. You are definitely no match for me. Young Shuangji stood in front of Zhao Qingxian. I have fate with this person, so I will definitely protect him. You have broken the laws of the heavenly Tao. As a river god, how can I spare you? The phoenix-eyed river god was furious. His voice was indifferent and had a strong sense of majesty. In the next moment, the surface of the river began to boil. The laws of the great Tao intertwined and began to flow out. You overestimate yourself. Yang Shuangji shook his head. Qi. He put his palms together, and a golden Buddhist light shot out from his hands. Before the river god could fully express his anger, it pierced through the skull of the phoenix-eyed river god. The Buddhist light crashed into the river god's body. Accompanied by astonishing energy, the heavenly Tao river god was shattered on the spot and instantly evaporated. Chapter 1360. The heavenly river god was destroyed in an instant. Zhao Qingxian's surprise could no longer be described in words. The golden lamp monk was the only Buddhist sage he knew. He didn't expect that Mr. Shuangji in front of him was also a Buddhist sage. Zhao Qingxian had already experienced golden lamp monk's strength. Even before he came to earth, Zhao Qingxian still remembered the words his father left him. His father was afraid that he would come to earth and stir up trouble, so he left him a list of people that he must not provoke. In addition to Ling Zhenren at the top of the list, monk Jin Deng's name was also on it. The list of people you must not provoke? At this moment, Mr. Shuangji smiled. His ability to read minds was as powerful as monk Jin Deng's. Mr. Shuangji's foresight is divine. Just some small tricks. Yang Shuangji said, "This list of yours is quite interesting. I didn't expect that even my senior brother's name would be on it." Mr. Shuangji, are you talking about Senior Golden Lamp? Zhao Qingxian was shocked. This young Shuangji before him was actually the junior brother of the Golden Lamp monk? Jin Deng is indeed my senior brother, but he probably doesn't know that I'm still alive. Young Shuangji casually said. Maybe my existence is bad news to him, because in this way he would no longer be Master's sole successor. Zhao Qingxian did not dare to reply. Although Yang Shuangji claimed to be Golden Lamp Monk's junior brother, Zhao Qingxian still felt that this person exuded a strange feeling from head to toe. Benefactor Zhao, if you think that my words are untrustworthy, then it's normal. One must always be on guard against others, but I believe that time and reality will prove everything. Yang Shuangji carefully looked at the information on the list and couldn't help but smile. Benefactor Zhao, how about we kill all the people on this list together? Zhao Qingxian thought he had misheard. What are you talking about, sir? He didn't believe that the person in front of him would be so daring as to say such words. Don't worry, Benefactor Zhao. I've already renounced asceticism a long time ago, so killing a few people is just a basic operation for me. Yang Shuangji said lightly, as if he was just talking about a few ants. I'm not even afraid of the heavenly Tao, and I even dare to go against the heavens. What's more, I've only killed a few people. But sir, you don't understand. Zhao Qingxian tried his best to stop Yang Shuangji's crazy thoughts. Although he hadn't witnessed Wang Ling's methods with his own eyes, because when Wang Ling had made his move in the domain of the gods back then, the pressure had been so strong that Zhao Qingxian hadn't been able to react at all before he had already passed out. He had learned about Ling Zhenren from the Zhao family servants, several clan elders and his father. Before they left, the Zhao clan's clan leader had repeatedly warned them not to provoke this person. Naturally, Zhao Qingxian would not turn a deaf ear to it. He had come to Earth on his father's orders to curry favor with Ling Zhenren, so there was no way he would do such a treasonous thing. Of course, Lu Qingyi was also very important. Furthermore, Lu Qingyi and Ling Zhenren had an extraordinary relationship, so it was even more impossible for Zhao Qingxian to offend Wang Ling if he wanted to woo Lu Qingyi. I know what you're afraid of. At this time Yang Shuangji said, the benefactor surnamed Wang on the list, if my guess is correct, all of this is a trick of my senior brother. Senior, what do you mean? Zhao Qingxian was puzzled. My senior brother has always been a liar through and through. Playing a two-man act is his usual trick. Playing a two-man act. That's right, my senior brother has created countless legendary characters. Back then, he was even given the title of Buddha sock puppet. Yang Shuangji said, senior brother has reincarnated so many times, dressing up as a woman, being an emperor, beggar, eunuch, dying fat otaku. He's experienced all kinds of things. With such rich experiences, it's definitely not difficult for him to create a character for himself. Zhao Qingxian immediately understood what was going on. Buddha sock puppet. That was to say Ling Zhenren was actually Monk Golden Lamp's sock puppet? Zhao Qingxian was completely confused by this. Now he was actually starting to be unable to tell which side was right. On one hand, he indeed hadn't seen Wang Ling's strength with his own eyes, and had only heard from word of mouth that such a ridiculously strong man existed. On the other hand, Yang Shuangji spoke resolutely, as if he was extremely confident in his deduction. This made Zhao Qingxian very puzzled. Yang Shuangji's eyes gradually turned crazy. My senior brother's strength is unparalleled. If I wasn't still alive, I'm afraid that no one in this world would be able to restrain him. Apart from me, there can't be a human stronger than him. If there is, it must be his sock puppet. Zhao Qingxian. Then sir, you mean, Yang Shuangji. I just need you to follow me for the time being, and then witness the moment my senior brother's plot is exposed. Zhao Qingxian. But I still don't understand why sir chose me, Yang Shuangji. Maybe you don't realize it, but you are a very important witness. Zhao Qingxian didn't dare believe it. Me? Your father sent you to Earth just to curry favor with the so-called almighties. But in fact, you don't need to curry favor with anyone. Yang Shuangji couldn't help laughing when he said this. Everything is predestined, in short. If you follow me, you'll get everything you want. Then, I'm willing to give it a try, sir. Zhao Qingxian gritted his teeth. Very good. Yang Shuangji nodded in satisfaction. First of all, our first step is to expose my senior brother's plot and destroy the sock puppets he created. Sir, are you confident? Of course. Yang Shuangji laughed. No one can resist my azure pestle. Elsewhere, in the Wang family's small villa, the monk was in the middle of asking for the heavenly Dao magic cube. After guarding the shop with the king's eye, Wang Ling had played with the hexahedron like a toy for a while before putting it aside. Now that he heard that the golden lamp was going to be made into a magic weapon, Wang Ling didn't hesitate to give it to him. In any case, it was useless to him. Zhenren's gift is too straightforward. The monk had thought that it wouldn't be easy to get the magic cube. At that moment, as he held the heavenly Dao magic cube in his hand, the expression on his face suddenly turned a little melancholic. For some reason, the golden lamp recalled how it and its little junior brother had fought over the magic cube. You have a junior brother? Wang Ling read the monk's thoughts and asked telepathically. Yes. My little junior brother. But he passed away a long time ago. And he used to be a magic cube enthusiast. Holding the magic cube in his hand, Monk Golden Lamp couldn't help but think of Wang Ling. He didn't think he was a particularly sentimental person. But for some reason, as he held the magic cube, he suddenly felt as if his little junior brother hadn't died yet. Are you sure your little junior brother is dead? Wang Ling asked telepathically at that moment. Monk Golden Lamp said succinctly, he's definitely dead. I scattered his ashes. Chapter 1361. At the mention of his junior brother, the monk's face was full of melancholy. As far as he could remember, Wang Ling had rarely seen this expression on the monk's face. It was obvious that the friendship between the monk and his junior brother back then was very deep. At that moment, the monk said "Ba," and then said, Let me tell you about my experience of scattering the ashes back then. Wang Ling. Monk Golden Lamp said. Back then my junior brother and I entered the temple together to break through the Mongolian maze that Shifu had left behind. Whoever passed would inherit Shifu's legacy. But halfway there, I was trapped by the maze of the past that Shifu had left behind. Hearing this, Wang Ling understood. This Buddhist maze of the past was probably based on the same principle as the repentance palm of the past, which the monk had used against the primordial heavenly Tao. If the victim didn't reflect on themselves, they would be trapped in the infinite illusion of the past forever. This was my Shifu's test for me, but I let him down. Monk Golden Lamp sighed. If my junior brother had left me behind and continued on, he would have become Shifu's successor. However, he sacrificed himself to get me out of my predicament. And then you became the ultimate saint of Buddhism? Wang Ling asked. No. The monk shook his head. This poor monk's current cultivation was obtained by relying on my own strength after I attained enlightenment. Although junior brother saved me, I didn't open the gate of destiny in the temple hall. Junior brother was more suitable to be my successor than I was. He sacrificed himself to help me get out of trouble. This poor monk will remember this kind of friendship for the rest of his life. That gate of destiny is still in the temple hall to this day, and this poor monk has never opened it. I don't know what Shifu left for us. Maybe it's some magic weapon? Or some Buddhist scripture? At that moment, the monk laughed bitterly. But since it's an inheritance, it can definitely help one of us become the ultimate saint of Buddhism. Saying this, Monk Golden Lamp noticed that Wang Ling was suddenly frowning, as if he was deep in thought. Ling Zhenren? The monk asked. He rarely saw Wang Ling in a daze. If he did, something big was definitely going to happen. For example, the last time he had been in a daze, he had swapped souls with Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch. Wang Ling came back to his senses. Nothing. Zhao Qingxian was taken into Yang Shuangji's inner world. At the same time, Yang Shuangji, who was in action, also began to carry out his plan to remove his name from the list of people you must not provoke. Apart from Wang Ling and the monk, who were first and second on the list, the other names were in no particular order. Senior, aren't you going to kill Ling Zhenren? But why did you choose the last person on the list to attack first? Zhao Qingxian asked curiously in the inner world. Good dishes should be saved for last, Mr. Shuangji said. It was too meaningless to kill his own senior brother and senior brother's disguise too early. Thus, Yang Shuangji's idea was to get rid of all the other people on the list, and then finally deal with Monk Golden Lamp and Wang Ling. Since they could appear on this list, it was obvious that these people were related to his senior brother. The last person on the list, Lotus Sunday. This was the first target he wanted to kill. He was just a foundation establishment cultivator. He was at the level where he could destroy them with a single breath. However, Yang Shuangji did not know where the girl lived. Thus, he used his Azura pestle to determine the position. Zhao Qingxian. Sir, what are you going to do? Yang Shuangji smiled. Just watch. He stood on a flat surface and placed the Azura pestle vertically on it. Then he loosened his grip and the Azura pestle fell in a certain direction. It's that direction. This method of determining the position looked a little casual, but Yang Shuangji was convinced. It was the legendary Buddhist fate-determining position method. You just had to silently recite the name of the person you were looking for. What was more convenient was that this list of people you must not provoke actually had photos of each person on it. Except for his senior brother's Wang Ling's disguise, which had been blurred out, the photos of everyone else were very clearly listed next to their names. This undoubtedly made Yang Shuangji's search a lot easier. I think this girl isn't bad. If you like women, I think you can give her a try. Yang Shuangji chuckled. No, I only have Qingyi in my heart. There's no room for other women. Zhao Qingxian shook his head and refused. In the photo, Lotus Sun was indeed very beautiful, and her exquisite facial features could almost be described as impeccable. In Zhao Qingxian's words, this was the face of first love that all boys fantasized about. But as an infatuated man, he had already given his heart to Lu Qingyi long ago. The main reason he was willing to descend to earth this time was actually because of Lu Qingyi. I didn't expect you to be such a romantic, what a pity. Yang Shuangji smiled. Then I'll go first. In any case, I've already renounced asceticism and haven't touched a woman for a long time. Senior is thinking, that's right. I'll kill this girl first, then enjoy her while she's hot. The corners of Yang Shuangji's lips curled up in a wicked smile. Zhao Qingxian suddenly felt a little regretful. The person he was following didn't seem normal. He was too perverted. Most importantly, this kind of person was actually the most sacred of Buddhism. Was Buddha sure he wouldn't cry? Using the Asura Pestil's Buddhist fate-determining position method, Yang Shuangji very quickly arrived at the entrance of the luxurious villa, where Lotus Sun lived. Too weak. In front of the door, Yang Shuangji sensed the aura inside the villa, and felt that the person inside was pitifully weak. But for a foundation establishment cultivator, he had to be a little more careful. Since he wanted to get close to a woman, he couldn't be too heavy-handed, or it would be very embarrassing if he slapped her into a paste. He raised his hand and aimed his palm in the direction of Lotus Sun's bedroom. He tried to use the force of his palm to lure the girl out of the room. In the end, at this moment, in the void, there was a wave of powerful aura that followed the direction of his palm force and attacked in reverse. Like a long river flowing backward, the enormous energy instantly shook off Yang Shuangji's palm. An expert? Yang Shuangji's heart shook. He hadn't expected a top expert to be hiding in this house. While he was thinking, a shadow was gathering in the air. Countless shadows poured out from Lotus Sun's bedroom, and finally formed the shape of Sun Ying'er. Who is it? Someone wants to attack my Rongrong. As soon as Sun Ying'er appeared, she turned her gaze to Yang Shuangji at the door. Imph! Anyone who dares to touch my Rongrong must die. In her rage, her snow-white hair fluttered in the air. Sun Ying'er pursed her lips, and in a flash, she split into 10-odd clones and charged toward Yang Shuangji. Chapter 1362. There's actually a clone with the same energy as the main body? This was the first time Yang Shuangji had encountered such a thing. Strictly speaking, he felt that this was not a clone at all. However, Yang Shuangji seemed to gradually understand the specific principle of using it as he dealt with the clones. These clones were all based on the main body, so as long as the main body was taken down, the clones would automatically disappear. At this moment, Yang Shuangji turned his gaze to Sun Ying'er in the void. He spread out his right hand. Pestle. A purplish-gold Buddhist pestle with a ferocious beast carved on its head passed through layers of space walls and came to his hand. This was the Asura pestle that Yang Shuangji was proud of. The ferocious beast on its head was the hell beast that suppressed the 18 levels of hell. Although it was a Buddhist item, it had an extremely strong murderous aura. Sun Ying'er's main body had yet to approach, but just by smelling the Asura pestle's aura, she felt that the void in front of her was filled with illusions. Everything was dyed blood red. Even the water vapor in the air seemed to have turned into a blood mist, making it difficult to breathe. Buzz. Senior, why does she look like she's in pain? Zhao Qingxian asked curiously in the inner world. He did not know what had happened. From his perspective, it was still blue sky and white clouds. Everything was normal. This is the Asura blood illusion array of the Asura pestle. The more people kill, the harder it is to escape. Yang Shuangji sneered. She's trapped by my Asura pestle and can't escape for now. Everything in the illusion array is fake, and we're still in reality. Now all we need to do is walk in and take down that girl. But who is this white-haired girl? She should be the one who refined her shadow into a magic treasure? Although I don't know how she did it, I'm slightly surprised. She's just a foundation establishment. Before Yang Shuangji could finish speaking, a shadow suddenly whipped out from the void and hit the right side of his face. Immediately afterward, Yang Shuangji's entire face began to distort. He quickly flew backward and crashed into a metal pier in the distance, causing the entire bridge to collapse. Although there was a huge commotion, Yang Shuangji himself did not seem to be too badly injured. After he got up from the pile of rubble, he was surprised to find that Sun Ying'er had used her own strength to break free from the illusion. Humph! You didn't expect this, did you? Sun Ying'er chuckled. The more people killed, the harder it was to escape? Sun Ying'er smiled. Ever since she had turned into a shadow and became the master of the void, she had fought with many people from the war sect. But the problem was that she hadn't killed a single person. Not only did he not commit any murder, but he was also forced to accept Wang Ying's beatings every day. Thinking of this, Sun Yinger was about to cry out of grievance. In her grief and indignation, she broke free from the illusion of the Azura pestle almost immediately and gave Yang Shuangji a face-breaking punch. Although the split body hit the right side of the face, the power of this punch was enough. The damage from the backlash was reflected on the doppelganger in an instant, shattering it into pieces. However, Yang Shuangji's entire body flew very far away, but such an explosive punch did not cause any substantial damage to him. Sun Yinger was slightly surprised. The person in front of her was much stronger than she had imagined. Supreme Buddhism? She muttered. Just as the split body punched out, she saw a layer of Buddha's light protecting Yang Shuangji's body. Although it was only for a moment, Sun Yinger was sure that she did not see wrong. In addition, there was the Azura pestle that was floating in the void. This was a powerful Buddhist world-defying magical artifact. And what made Sun Yinger even more shocked was that there was chaotic force flowing in it, at least 5% of it. Fortunately, her battle strength was not low, otherwise, she would have been done for. I don't know how the little girl inside refined the shadow into an artifact, but if you are willing to come with me, I can spare your master's life. I will only rape him, not kill him. Yang Shuangji said. You are a supreme Buddhism. How can you say such shameless words? I have lived for a long time. You are not a fake monk, are you? Sun Yinger listened to Yang Shuangji's words, feeling incredulous and a little funny at the same time. Also, what makes you think that I am a refined artifact? She felt that the fake monk in front of her had an inexplicable kind of conceit, and it was the kind of conceit of a frog in a well. Although Sun Yinger had heard that the Golden Lamp monk was also extremely confident in his own strength, at least he would reflect on himself. They were both supreme Buddhists, but why was the gap so big? Sun Yinger felt that the man in front of her was revealing something strange. If he was a fake monk, the holy aura he exuded was real, just like the Golden Lamp monk. If he was a real monk, Sun Yinger could not accept that such a thought, which was even more perverted than Wang Ying, would appear in the head of such a supreme Buddhism saint. Since that's the case, I'll take both of you down today. A threesome, perhaps it will be more enjoyable. Yang Shuangji licked his lips. He manipulated the Azura pestle, jumped up from a distance, and attacked Sun Yinger. At this time, Sun Yinger was still in deep shock. She thought that Wang Ying was perverted enough. She did not expect that there would be an even more perverted one. Sure enough, there was no limit to the realm of perversion. With such a comparison, Sun Yinger suddenly felt that Wang Ying was much more normal than Yang Shuangji. At the very least, Wang Ying had only used the planet wall tapping technique on her. Although it made her waist hurt, he did not do anything else that crossed the line. Compared to Yang Shuangji, Wang Ying was simply a gentleman. As long as I can restrain you, your split bodies will disappear. At this time, Yang Shuangji's laughter came from afar. His Azura pestle burst out in full force at this moment, and the blood-colored Buddha light shone for thousands of miles, incomparably gorgeous, with a natural majesty in the awe-inspiring atmosphere. Those split bodies were all suppressed to the ground, like nails deeply embedded in the ground, unable to move. At the same time, the Azura pestle fell on Sun Yinger's body to suppress it. That dense oppressive force caused the careless girl to be trapped. It's all that damn Wang Ying's fault. Sun Yinger was panicking. Her strength was restricted by Wang Ying, which allowed Yang Shuangji to have the upper hand at this time. Otherwise, how could a mere Yang Shuangji be her opponent? Yang Shuangji revealed a wretched expression. His tongue was very long, and when he pounced in front of Sun Yinger, he almost licked Sun Yinger's face. However, at this time, there was a buzzing sound. The huge black shadow that covered the sky and the earth suddenly did not come. The black shadow was like a tide, sweeping in from all directions, instantly sweeping Sun Yinger away. Yang Shuangji stuck out his tongue. In the end, he only licked her loneliness. At the critical moment, Sun Yinger was rescued. She felt a domineering force suddenly pulling her away, and she could not be more familiar with this force. It was that man who appeared. He was like a god appearing to save her, and then quickly swept Yang Shuangji into his inner world. Here. It was Wang Ying's inner world. Wang Ying. Sun Yinger was almost sobbing. All kinds of emotions intertwined in her heart. She was a little touched, but she was more disgusted by the tongue that Yang Shuangji had just stuck out. You, who are you? Facing the man who suddenly appeared, Yang Shuangji was feeling depressed that he did not succeed. Touch my people? Wang Ying frowned. He stood with his hands behind his back, not even moving a finger. The countless shadows in the inner world turned into tens of millions of strips, and instantly attacked. You. Yang Shuangji's eyes were filled with horror. This power was too terrifying, and the Shura pestle that he was so proud of was snatched away by these strips of shadows, instantly swallowed up. That was the magic weapon that he was so proud of. Now that it was snatched away, Yang Shuangji instantly lost most of his sense of security. The countless strips rolled in from all directions, pulling Yang Shuangji's limbs, tightly wrapping him up. No. Yang Shuangji shouted, burning his own blood essence, wanting to resist. However, all of this was useless. Wang Ying's speed was too fast, his figure was as dense as a ghost, and instantly appeared in front of Yang Shuangji, stretching out his hand and strangling his neck. Yang Shuangji was in pain from being strangled, and the tongue in his mouth was forcefully squeezed out by Wang Ying. Wang Ying did not say anything, only to hear chi. Another sound. He controlled the strips of shadows around him, and pulled out Yang Shuangji's entire tongue. However, to Wang Ying, all of this was just the beginning. You still haven't moved where? Wang Ying stared at Yang Shuangji coldly. He began to torture at his own pace. In the inner world, Yang Shuangji's screams were heard at this moment. This was a unique song that belonged to Wang Ying, the Shadow Dao execution song. Chapter 1363. Wang Ying didn't know why he hated Yang Shuangji so much. Maybe it was because of Yang Shuangji's insufferably arrogant face. Maybe it was because of Yang Shuangji's arrogant, complacent, and insufferably arrogant attitude. Or even simpler, it was simply because Yang Shuangji had bullied Sun Yinger. Mixed up with these emotions, the rage in Wang Ying's heart was on the verge of bursting out. There was no suspense in the ensuing battle. The only difference between them was the king's eye, and Yang Shuangji naturally wasn't Wang Ying's match. He strangled Yang Shuangji's neck, cut off his tongue, and finally broke his fingers one by one. These filthy, evil hands made Wang Ying's blood run cold and disgusting. Shadow Dao execution tune was the most terrifying of all Shadow Dao spells that Wang Ying had, and was ranked number 1. Its power was second only to the Shadow Ball, which he had used to deal with the groundhog. But once it was carried out, it would make people experience the inhumane feeling of abuse. The heart-wrenching damage that would be transmitted would not cause one to die, but it would be able to destroy one's spirit through the continuous abuse. In the end, it collapsed. Shadow Ball was an immobilizing destructive spell. Every second spent in the Shadow Ball would cause damage equivalent to one slap from Wang Ling. But Wang Ying felt that using Shadow Ball to deal with someone like Yang Shuangji was going too easy on him. As for the Shadow Dao execution tune, it was perfect for Yang Shuangji. Like long spears, striped shadows attacked from all directions and pierced through Yang Shuangji's body. One of them pierced Yang Shuangji's mouth directly, piercing his throat all the way through and coming out through the soles of his feet. However, Wang Ying's abuse didn't stop there. His eyes were bloodshot as he entered a berserk state. This was a Wang Ying that Sun Yinger had never seen before. For a moment, the girl suddenly felt fear. In a berserk state, Wang Ying directed thousands of striped shadows to poke holes in Yang Shuangji's body. He kept repeating his actions. He was like an emotionless, ice-cold machine. Sun Yinger finally couldn't take it anymore. She stepped forward and hugged him from behind. Enough! Wang Ying. He's already dead. This call finally brought Wang Ying back to his senses. The red light in his eyes receded. Peace returned to the inner world. All that was left was Yang Shuangji's corpse, which had been tortured beyond recognition. At this point, all the executions had been completed. Wang Ying stabbed her hand into Yang Shuangji's dantian. As soon as Yang Shuangji died, the inner world within him began to collapse. However, Wang Ying could sense that there was another person hidden in Yang Shuangji's inner world. Then Zhao Qingxian was pulled out. Wang Ying grabbed Zhao Qingxian's neck, scaring him out of his wits. Senior, don't kill me. I was forced by him. The son of the divine realm's Zhao family's patriarch. Wang Ying read out this person's background. He also knew why Zhao Qingxian was hanging out with Yang Shuangji. Earlier, Zhao Qingxian had said, "He only has Lu Qingyi in his heart." This sentence actually saved Zhao Qingxian's life. He sensed that Zhao Qingxian bore no malice towards Lotus Sunday. In the end, Wang Ying brought Zhao Qingxian out of the inner world and threw him on the ground. "Thank you for not killing me, senior." Zhao Qingxian hurriedly kowtowed and begged for mercy. Someone as strong as Yang Shuangji had been abused by Wang Ying to the point where he couldn't even put up a fight. This kind of strength instantly gave Zhao Qingxian a clearer understanding of his trip to Earth. "Can you let go of me?" At that moment, Wang Ying frowned and asked. Sun Yinger was still hugging him like a koala bear. "Oh, sorry." Sun Yinger hurriedly let go. "But get this straight. I wasn't going to hug you just now. I know. I didn't hug you because I wanted you to calm down because you were in a killing frenzy. I know. It's all because your inner world is too cold." Wang Ying nodded. He allowed the young girl to make these seemingly weak arguments. "By the way, how did you know I was in danger?" Sun Yinger was curious. "You're too stupid. You could be in danger at any time," Wang Ying replied. "Who's stupid?" "I've been observing from the side for a long time. If it weren't for Miss Sun being in danger, I wouldn't have made a move. It's also not because the Lord predicted that you would be in danger, so he came," Wang Ying said expressionlessly. "You're not honest at all." Sun Yinger said. "You're the same." Wang Ying shrugged and stared at Sun Yinger. "Tonight, you still owe me 200 punishments. Why? You failed to protect Miss Sun, and you still need me to make a move. You're the Void Master." Wang Ying smiled coldly. "It's obviously you." When Sun Yinger heard Wang Ying's words, she wanted to go up and ruthlessly trample on Wang Ying's face, but she restrained her impulse in the end. She wanted to say that it was Wang Ying who restricted her ability, but when the words reached her mouth, she didn't dare to say it. She knew that once she said it, she would fall into Wang Ying's trap. He would definitely seize the opportunity to increase the number of punishments. "It's just 200 times. Fine, I'll punish you." Sun Yinger stomped her feet in exasperation. Then, she turned her gaze to Yang Shuangji, who was not even human anymore. "What's going on with this person?" "The Lord has already divined this person's background, so I have to ask you," Wang Ying said. "Ask me? What does it have to do with me?" Sun Yinger put her hands on her hips and put on an innocent expression. "This person is not a Buddhist saint," Wang Ying said. "How is that possible?" Zhao Qingxian, who was still kneeling on the ground, looked shocked. "But he clearly told me that he's Grandmaster Jin Deng's junior brother." "Grandmaster Jin Deng's junior brother died a long time ago. How could a Buddhist disciple who was willing to die in order to save his senior brother possibly say these insulting words of Buddhism?" Wang Ying said. After he said that, Sun Yinger carefully observed Yang Shuangji, and the expression on her face suddenly became extremely surprised. "Did you notice?" Wang Ying asked. Sun Yinger reached out, and a light seal appeared in her palm. It was the Void Master's seal. She reached out and covered Yang Shuangji's body. The blood-drenched body instantly turned into particles of light and disappeared. "This is an imaginary creature?" "Yes, this person is an imaginary creature from the Void world. He's also our old friend," Wang Ying said. Everyone knew that the minds of the Void creatures were connected. They lived in the Void and relied on all kinds of imagination to obtain spiritual satisfaction and pleasure. These imaginative things usually did not affect reality. However, there was still a very small probability that these imagination things would be reflected in real life. To put it bluntly, if the obsession was strong enough, they could use the power of the Void to reimagine themselves. "I know that the Void creatures are now under strict control, so this kind of situation can't happen," But you need to know that your void world is not clean for a long time, Wang Ying said. Are you talking about the human cultivators who evolved into void creatures? Sun Ying'er was surprised. This is the only reason why a void creature would have such a strong obsession. Wang Ying said, Golden Deng's junior brother is not called Yang Shuangji. This person disguised himself as a Buddhist saint and changed his name to Yang Shuangji, which is actually a hint to his true identity. You're saying he is Yang, the symbol of day. Shuangji is Zhe. It has the same sound as Zhe. This person is still alive. Sun Ying'er was shocked. She had inherited all the energy and information of the old Void Master, so she naturally knew about this person. But this person was already dead. All the Baizha in the parallel worlds had been completely destroyed. I didn't think that there would be someone with such a strong obsession in this world. Wang Ying couldn't help but laugh. Baizha's obsession was unbelievable even to him. He was already dead. He even used the last remnant of his will to assume the identity of the deceased and forcefully filled in the gaps in his mind. P.S. For this chapter, see Chapter 1261, The Night of Demolition in 112660 High. Chapter 1364. The probability of imaginary creatures appearing in the void was very small, and generally speaking, there was no need to pay special attention to them, since they were just imagination, created by some very obsessive void creatures. Although this kind of imagination would be reflected in reality, it was like a dream, and would disappear as soon as one woke up. It was like a mirage that many people saw. But this was the first time even Sun Ying'er had seen such an obsessive imagination. In the records of the old Void Masters, there had never been an imaginary creature created by a void spirit that could live in the real world for more than 30 seconds. And Baizha's duration was beyond imagination. This kind of obsession was frightening. He'll probably appear again in the future. Sun Ying'er was very curious. Maybe, Wang Ying replied with a nod. I'm very curious what makes him so obsessed. Sun Ying'er didn't understand. He's not the main character, but he imagines himself to be the main character. That's the saddest thing about Baizha, Wang Ying said. So it's the obsession of being the main character. Sun Ying'er thought it was a little funny. So, is that why he imagines himself to be the main character, and doesn't recognize Wang Ling? He's been killed many times by Commander Ling. Since he appears in the form of imagination, he naturally imagines himself to be invincible. After all, he imagines himself to be the main character, and would never imagine a memory that's bad for him. So in his mind, he's invincible. One last question. Why does he imagine himself to be someone who's already dead? Wang Ying replied, there's a basic rule for imagination, and the dead won't disturb the order. It would be interesting if he defied nature, and imagined himself to be Commander Ling that day. So, maybe he'll use the identity of someone else who's already dead in the future. We have to be prepared. You have to protect Miss Sun at all times. He clearly didn't have much to do, but he forced himself to be the main character. Each time, Baizha thought he was invincible, but he was killed time and time again. There was no doubt that he was a tragic character. I will. Sun Ying'er nodded. But can you remove the restriction on me? No. Wang Ying refused Sun Ying'er's request. Why? No reason, because I don't want to. When Wang Ying said that, he took the opportunity to grab Sun Ying'er's hands, put them against a wall, and moved his face closer. They were so close that Sun Ying'er could hear Wang Ying's breathing. Sun Ying'er. Pervert, Wang Ying sneered. Tonight 200 times don't forget. With that, Wang Ying let go of Sun Ying'er and disappeared with Zhao Qingxian in a black shadow. Hateful guy. Every time he uses so much force. Sun Ying'er grumbled and rubbed her wrist that was hurting from being pinched. Just as he was about to return to Lotus Sun's side, he suddenly heard a loud boom behind him. Because Wang Ying had just been pushed against the wall. The wall behind her had actually collapsed. This was the outer wall of the villa, and it was at least 1,000 meters long. Now a part of the wall had collapsed, forming a domino effect. The 1,000-meter wall began to collapse one after another. Sun Ying'er was extremely shocked. After that, she understood something. That was Never let a man with a higher realm than you push you against the wall. Elsewhere, Wang Ying had dragged Zhao Qingxian to the Wang family's small villa. He could be spared the death penalty, but he couldn't be spared. Choosing to join Yang Shuangji's camp had already been a huge mistake. If it wasn't for his infatuation with Lu Qingyi, not even ashes would be left of Zhao Qingxian. Zhenren, spare me. I didn't join on purpose. I've admired Qingyi for a long time, but after I came to Earth, I was inexplicably brought to a detention center. Zhao Qingxian's eyes welled up with tears as he said this. He didn't know why this had happened. Zhao Qingxian was well aware that he couldn't hide anything at all, so he simply confessed everything. Wang Ling had already read the cause and effect of everything in Zhao Qingxian's mind. Overall, Zhao Qingxian could be considered honest. Furthermore, Zhao Qingxian couldn't be blamed entirely for being sent to a detention center. Zhao Qingxian had been sent down by the head of the Zhao family to make friends with Wang Zhen. Who would have thought that as soon as he came to Earth, Wang Zhen would plot against him and beat him up? He could be considered an unlucky kid. Then Wang Ling waved his hand and motioned for Wang Ying to take Zhao Qingxian to Wei Ji's apartment for Gu Xuanji to supervise. He told Wang Ying to bring Zhao Qingxian to his side. He just wanted to know why Bai Zhe had come to Zhao Qingxian after he had imagined himself to be Yang Shuangji. He felt that there might be some key clue on Zhao Qingxian that Bai Zhe could use, which was why Bai Zhe had set his eyes on him. But what exactly, Wang Ling couldn't say for sure at the moment. Because this Bai Zhe hadn't explained anything to Zhao Qingxian before Wang Ying had killed him. And now, Zhao Qingxian was also in a state of confusion. He had no idea what had happened at all. I'll send you to a place where the Keeper of Order will supervise you. You have to behave, Wang Ying said as she stared at Zhao Qingxian at that moment. Yes. After you go back, when the soul change spell wears off, switch back to your original body. Don't cause any more trouble. You have to report everything you do in advance. Understood. Zhao Qingxian nodded. Also, there's something else I have to tell you. Wang Ying rubbed his chin thoughtfully. He had actually pondered for a long time whether to tell Zhao Qingxian this bad news, but he felt that since the matter was already settled, it was better to let Zhao Qingxian accept it sooner rather than later. Wang Ying. Miss Lu already has someone she likes. Although you're infatuated with her, I advise you not to harass her. Otherwise, you'll be dealt with very badly. Someone she likes? Who's the one she likes? I want to fight him one-on-one. Zhao Qingxian was furious and looked like he wanted nothing more than to rush forward and bite someone to death. Wang Zhen. Wang Ying said. Do you know him? Hearing this, Zhao Qingxian was alarmed. Aren't they at loggerheads? He's so sweet now, Wang Ying said. You can't force things when it comes to relationships. They're very close now, so whatever you do is useless. After Wang Ying said this, Zhao Qingxian's nose turned sour, and he burst into tears on the spot. He took out the last of his belongings from his storage ring, and kowtowed to Wang Ling. Zhenren. These 3 heavenly essence returning heart pills are my last life-saving measure. I beg you help me. I can't live without Qingyi. Wang Ling. Next to him, Wang Ying didn't say anything, and directly dragged the crying Zhao Qingxian away. Not crispy noodle snacks. He still had the nerve to complain. Chapter 1365. Yang Shuangji's matter came to an end, and Zhao Qingxian was also under Gu Xuanji's supervision. But Wang Ling knew that this was actually just the beginning. Bai Zhe's obsession was stronger than Wang Ling had imagined. Even if he had already killed all the Bai Zhe in the parallel spaces, he still retained a strong obsession, filling in the gaps in their own imaginations in various ways. Then he appeared in this world, launching a meaningless challenge to himself. He was killed time and time again, but miraculously recovered time and time again. To Wang Ling, Bai Zhe's life was already legendary enough. Yang Shuangji. This was the first character that came to Bai Zhe's mind, and it was also the first sock puppet. Unfortunately, Bai Zhe died too quickly. There weren't any useful clues left. Judging from the current situation, the only useful information was Zhao Qingxian. He was the first person Bai Zhe had approached after his brain had recovered. Wang Ling currently didn't know what use Zhao Qingxian had for Baizha. Therefore, he could only ask Gu Xuanji to help keep an eye on things. After seeing Zhao Qingxian off, Wang Ling started to flip through the book comprehensive collection of essays for exams. After returning from the Nine Dragon Mountain National Competition, Crispy Noodles had written an essay for Wang Ling that had exploded in popularity. At that time, A Speck of Ashes of the Times had almost become his biggest label. Thus, his language teacher, Guan Ziqian, had forced him to participate in the essay competition this time. Before Sunday, he had to submit an essay and upload it to the national competition database through the online platform. Teacher Guan was a good person, and Wang Ling had to give him face. But he really didn't know if they could get a ranking or not. Of all the items that could be graded, the essay was actually the most difficult to control. This was because every marking teacher had a different impression of the essay. The same essay might give a completely different score. If Wang Ling wrote the essay himself, he would use the lowest standard, and it would be fine as long as he didn't deviate from the mark. Then he opened the submission platform for the essay competition. He carefully reviewed the theme of the essay. Youth's feelings are always poems. Sitting in the morning to talk about lovesickness. Perhaps everyone has an unforgettable person in their youth. Please write your own topic and talk about whether you are currently in love. P.S. If you are a single dog, please use single dog as the title and talk about your views on single dogs. Wang Ling's lips twitched. This was an essay contest. Why are you scolding me? That night, on the moon, Wang Ying waited for Sun Yinger for a long time. The appointed time was 8 o'clock at night. Wang Ying had nothing to do and had been waiting here since 6 o'clock. In any case, it was very boring for Wang Ying to stay in Wang Ling's mental space, so she might as well stay here and wait for a chance to tease Sun Yinger. It was almost 8 o'clock, about 2 to 3 minutes until the hour. Sun Yinger's figure appeared. As usual, the girl was still dressed in dark clothing. She was wearing a deep burgundy lace dress decorated with sparkling black diamonds. The dark color of the dress set off Sun Yinger's snow-white skin, and the black waistband showed off her fine figure in one glance. These 2 days, Lotus Sun bought a lot of new clothes for Sun Yinger. However, Sun Yinger was a fan of dark-colored clothes. She wore them in black, purple, and gray. The only brighter color was the white lace on her skirt. Wang Ying was delighted and pulled the girl into her arms. Looks like you're ready to be punished. Sun Yinger fell into Wang Ying's arms and smiled sinisterly. Wang Ying, you've been tricked. The girl in her arms laughed as if her plan had succeeded, and then with a bang, her split body actually split again. This wasn't Sun Yinger's real body, but the nesting doll split trap. Sun Yinger knew that her real body couldn't use any of its abilities when it was next to Wang Ying, so she had already made preparations on Earth. At that moment, Sun Yinger was hiding in a corner of space, secretly delighted at her victory. She had actually been thinking about how to break Wang Ying's planet drumming spell. And now, she had finally developed a new unique skill. Nesting doll split trap plus shadow coffin carrying spell. First, she would use the split body as bait to confuse the target. Then, when the target was very close, she would quickly split into 6 other split bodies. A total of 7 split bodies would instantly imprison the target. Starting from the head, limbs, waist, and shoulders, the 7 split bodies would firmly fix these parts in place from bottom to top, and then lift them onto the target's shoulders. Then the most crucial step appeared. Once the target was placed on the shoulders of the 7 split bodies, the lifted target would be quickly cursed and then explode. It would be directly turned into ashes, and there wouldn't even be a need to buy a coffin. Therefore, Sun Yinger also named her newly developed unique skill, Shadow Coffin Carrying Spell. In just a few seconds, there was a huge explosion on the surface of the moon. It was accompanied by a loud boom. The 7 split bodies and Wang Ying perished together, leaving behind a huge crater that was thousands of feet wide. Wang Ying's aura had completely disappeared. Sun Yinger hid in the dark and observed. She had thought that after Wang Ying disappeared, she might feel happy, because she had finally broken free from the shackles of a pervert. However, it turned out that Sun Yinger wasn't as happy as she had imagined. On the contrary, there was a sense of emptiness in Sun Yinger's heart. This idiot, she's usually so smart. How did she really die from the explosion? Sun Yinger's expression was very complicated. She looked at the huge crater on the surface of the moon and felt Wang Ying's aura disappear, and a sense of loss arose in her heart. Idiot Wang Ying. Pervert Wang Ying. She stomped her feet and cursed in the dark, and there were already tears in her eyes. At this moment, Wang Ying's voice suddenly sounded from behind her. Miss me? In the deep and boundless darkness of the universe, a hand condensed from a black shadow and quickly materialized, pinching the girl's soft earlobe. You're not dead? Sun Yinger instantly held back her tears. I told you long ago you're a stupid woman. You want to kill me with this kind of method? Wang Ying revealed his entire figure. He appeared from behind, grabbed the girl's hand, and pressed it against a meteorite. The girl's hand was grabbed, and Wang Ying pressed on her joints, causing her to gasp in pain. Don't push forward. It's very painful. Hearing this, Wang Ying loosened his grip a little, and slightly raised the corner of his lips. Now you know pain? Just you wait, one day I'll blow you up. Stubborn. Wang Ying smiled bitterly and shook his head. Just now, did you call me an idiot? I think you called me twice? The sixth rule is that every time you scold me in the future, you'll be hit 200 more times. So today's punishment is a total of 600 times. But you only made this rule today. Sun Yinger was unconvinced. I don't care. Wang Ying whispered in Sun Yinger's ear. I want to see you angry and exasperated, but unable to kill me. Sun Yinger. That night, under the inspiration of Sun Yinger, Wang Ying also upgraded his planet drumming technique. He changed it to multiple planet drumming technique. There were a total of 7 Wang Ying, and each of them pressed on a part of the girl's body. Once again, he smashed the planets in the Milky Way that had just been repaired into pieces. P.S. Watch this chapter and combine it with the video Black Man Coffin Bearers for better effect. You can search for it on Bilibili. Chapter 1366. Friday, December 4th. The monk paid another visit to Sister Sun's villa. With Sun Yinger's split nomological form, and the heavenly Tao magic cube. The conditions needed to turn Mysterious C's sword spirit space into a super sword spirit container had been met. Monk Golden Lamp only needed to handle the operation to upgrade Mysterious C now, and there basically wouldn't be any problems. I'm here today to ask Miss Sun to come with me to the demon world, the monk said. The demon world? After upgrading into a super sword spirit container, it needs to recognize its master as soon as possible. If it's on Earth, it'll cause too much of a stir. It'll attract attention. If it's in the demon world, it's actually just right, the monk said. He had actually thought for a long time about where to set up the altar, and in the end still chose the demon world. On one hand, second-generation demon saint and the demon world's holy envoy Shen Wuyue were on his side, and could provide some help. On the other hand, upgrading the Super Sword Spirit container would trigger another chaos heavenly tribulation. Earth had already completed its upgrade, so the demon world naturally couldn't fall behind. This was for the sake of checks and balances. The monk also felt that helping the demon world complete its upgrade this time would also help improve their relationship with the demon world. The main thing was that their ties with Battle Sect would become even deeper. Lotus Sun actually knew very little about the demon world, and the only thing she knew was that Loopy Toad was from there. Thus, her expression turned astonished once again. This heavenly Tao was created by classmate Wang Ling. Could it be the same in the demon world? The monk was already used to the girl's strange ancestral imagination. It wasn't created by Ling Jinren, but I reckon that second-generation demon saint would be very happy to abdicate his position. Classmate Wang Ling will be demon saint in the demon world? Lotus Sun asked. Ling Jinren doesn't have the time to worry about so many things. The monk smiled. Benefactor Toad is a ready-made demon saint seedling. Loopy Toad. Lotus Sun nodded thoughtfully. Speaking of which, it had been a while since she had seen Loopy Toad. When Earth was upgraded a while ago, Benefactor Toad accidentally swallowed the soul of a divine beast, and is currently cultivating in seclusion in the demon world. With Ling Jinren's secret help, the speed at which it swallows the soul has greatly increased, and it'll be completed soon. The monk said, Miss Sun, you can go with me this time. You can understand the demonic world, and also visit Benefactor Toad. All right, I'll listen to Senior. Lotus Sun nodded. The monk was very strong. She believed that her safety would not be a problem. In addition, Inger was always by her side. If they encountered a situation where they couldn't win, Wang Ying would also come. In terms of personality, Wang Ying and Wang Ling were very different. But as a shadow, Wang Ying had inherited one of Wang Ling's traits, peeping. Perhaps he had said something wrong. But Lotus Sun felt that there shouldn't be too many problems with her analysis. Senior Golden Lamp. How long will we be gone? Lotus Sun asked before leaving. It won't be long. I'll be back on the same day, the monk replied. Creating a super sword spirit container was not a difficult task for him. Moreover, he had already informed the demon world in advance about upgrading the altar, and had second-generation demon saint and Shen Wuyue make the necessary preparations. Miss Sun, please follow me. The monk performed a Buddhist salute, then took out a purple gold alms bowl from his world in the sleeve, and placed it on the ground. Then he took a step forward and stepped on the mouth of the alms bowl. His entire body was instantly sucked in. This was the map teleportation magic artifact that the monk often used. Lotus Sun was a little nervous. She had never seen what the demon world was like, but curiosity drove her to take this step. The purple gold alms bowl's teleportation light was very gentle. There wasn't much discomfort. When she landed, Lotus Sun felt like a leaf floating on the surface of water, as she was very gently teleported to the demon world. This was a rather retro tribal world. The girl stood on a high vantage point. Looking ahead, there wasn't a single particularly modern building in this vast area, and every place was filled with a simple and unadorned aura. The architectural style of the demon world was completely different from that of the human world. It was like visiting an ancient relic. Miss Sun, we're now at the center of the demon world, on top of the holy pillar. In other words, it's the place where the demon saint is, the monk said casually. He swept a glance at the magnificent, retro palace behind him. That's where Demon Saint lives. At that moment, Sun Yinger chuckled. Rongrong, did you know? Not everyone has the right to come to the holy pillar in the demon world. Even the 8 demon gods don't have the right to set foot on top of the holy pillar without permission. Sun Yinger wasn't exaggerating. On top of the holy pillar. This was a domain that symbolized the supreme power of the demon race, and the supreme dignity of Demon Saint. Even demon gods didn't have the right to come here, but Lotus Sun did. Sun Yinger found it funny. Haha. It's Rongrong's first time in the demon world, and she's already on top of the holy pillar. I don't know if I should say that Rongrong is worthy of being the strongest foundation establishment cultivator on earth. And she's even my daughter. Before she could say the word woman, she blushed and berated Sun Yinger. What are you saying, Ying? Don't spout nonsense. Sun Yinger stuck out her tongue and then obediently shut up. They waited outside the temple for about a minute before second-generation demon saint and divine envoy Shen Wuyue hurried out of the palace to welcome them. Senior Golden Lamp and Miss Sun, I've kept you waiting. Shen Wuyue was the first to greet them, and then he bowed in apology. He looked at Lotus Sunday. I've long heard of Miss Sun's great name. Seeing you today, you're indeed extraordinary. Senior is too kind. The girl was a little embarrassed by the formality. We're all on the same side here, so you don't have to be nervous. Coming here is just like coming home. Shen Wuyue smiled. Miss Sun, are you interested in drinking deer blood soup? It can nourish your skin and prolong your life. It's a great tonic. Lotus Sun was puzzled. Deer blood soup. That's it. Saying this, Shen Wuyue plucked off his antlers. Rip. There was a loud sound. Blood instantly gushed out of the wound like a fountain. Thank you. No need. Lotus Sun was frightened. Then Lord Demon Saint and Miss Sun, please come into the temple for a chat, second-generation Demon Saint said at that moment. Demon Saint. Lotus Sun was surprised. Realizing that he had let the cat out of the bag, second-generation Demon Saint looked a little embarrassed. At that moment, the monk smiled. To tell you the truth, Miss Sun, in fact, this poor monk was once Demon Saint in one reincarnation. But that was a long time ago. At that time, there was no ranking for demon saint, so this poor monk was once primordial demon saint. Senior's experience is really rich. Lotus-san was so shocked that she couldn't speak. She instantly understood what Shinwuyue meant. No wonder he said that coming here was just like coming home. She had thought that Shinwuyue had read too much Gone in a Bottle. She hadn't expected Golden Lamp to have such an experience. Chapter 1367. The monk's rich life experience was breathtaking. He had been an emperor, a beggar, a demon saint, and had even played all kinds of female roles. Lotus-san was utterly shocked. She felt that the monk might have already experienced all the professions in the world. After nearly 4,000 lives of reincarnation, what could he do? It could only be said that Senior Golden Lamp was indeed Senior Golden Lamp, as expected of a representative figure who had lived for a long time. Second-generation demon saint and Shenwuyue led the way, and Lotus-san followed closely behind them. She walked on the soft red carpet of Demon Saint's palace. Halfway there, she suddenly had a question in her heart. Senior Golden Lamp, I have a question. Miss Sun, there's no harm in asking. The monk smiled politely. Since Senior Golden Lamp has experienced so many professions, haven't you ever stopped being a monk? Lotus-san asked. The journey of reincarnation is a very mystical path. No matter how I reincarnate, this poor monk's ultimate fate is to become a monk. This is unavoidable. It was during these countless experiences of new professions, and finally becoming a monk that this poor monk realized life and the truth of Buddhism. The monk smiled, and there was a profound meaning in his words. Perhaps Miss Sun will feel powerless when I say this. But if Miss Sun has the opportunity to experience reincarnation, perhaps you will be able to comprehend it. Lotus-san sank into thought at this. After carefully mulling it over, the girl raised her head again, and there was an unprecedented seriousness in her eyes. Senior, can you explain it more clearly? The monk narrowed his eyes slightly. His brain was translating all the scripture theories in his head as he tried his best to explain them in plain language that ordinary people could understand. It actually wasn't a long process. A few seconds later, Lotus-san heard Golden Lamp continue. Perhaps in this world, apart from Ling Jinren who can't see his own fate, everyone's fate is predetermined. To be able to change one's fate is to defy the heavens. You see, this poor monk can reincarnate 1,000 times, but still can't escape the fate of being a monk. Like that marmot, no matter how hard it struggles, it can't escape its fate of being a marmot. Like that Baizha, no matter how many times he comes back to life, no matter what new form he takes, he will still be destroyed by Ling Jinren's palm. And that Kuxuan, no matter how many times he changes, he can't escape his fate of being short. People can enter the cycle of reincarnation, but they can't escape their final fate. A person's dedication to love can also transcend the cycle of reincarnation, even though it takes a long time. But as long as you endure it, there will come a day when it ends. At this point, the monk glanced at Lotus Sunday. He felt that what he was hinting at was very obvious. However, the girl's expression didn't change much. Sun Yinger, on the other hand, suddenly cried out in alarm. She sounded almost like she was about to cry, and second-generation demon saint and Shenwuyue, who were leading the way, turned their heads in alarm. Sun Yinger said, "Monk, are you lying to me?" The monk was puzzled. "I'm a poor monk, why would I lie?" Sun Yinger cried even harder. "Boo-hoo. You said that I can't escape the fate of reincarnation. Does that mean that in my next life, I will still be hit by that perverted Wang Ying? I'm so miserable." Everyone. With the girl's intelligence, she could naturally sense the deeper meaning behind the monk's words. When she saw Sun Yinger complaining, she actually felt a little envious. Wang Ying's initiative was far beyond Wang Ling's. She remembered that her Shifu Lu Qingyi had complained to her previously that people with the surname Wang were all blockheads. But not long after she said that, Wang Zhen had laid his cards on the table. And now, according to Wang Ying and Sun Yinger's situation, their shadows were about to merge again, but there was no sign of them at all. Classmate Wang Ling was just like a fighter among blockheads. Lord Primitive Demon Saint, the upgrade altar is just up ahead. Before she knew it, she had already been led to the inner palace of Demon Saint's palace. The upgrade altar was set up here. 12 simple stone pillars formed a circle with an umbrella-shaped spire. From a distance it looked a little like a pavilion, but it was full of a mysterious, simple, and ritualistic feeling. On the side of the altar, second-generation Demon Saint and Shen Wuyue had set up an upgrade guide for the demon world. They planned to take advantage of the Sword Spirit's upgrade and also benefit the demon world in passing. This upgrade array, which is supported by 12 ancient Sword King pillars, was set up according to Lord Primitive Demon Saint's will. Below the ground is the upgrade array disc, and I've already carefully checked all the array patterns to make sure nothing goes wrong. As for the top, at that moment, Shen Wuyue looked at the top of the altar. The girl next to him followed Shen Wuyue's gaze. She saw a crescent-shaped blade that gave off a faint blue light hanging at the very top of the spire. The blade was engraved with ancient characters, which were very grand and profound. This spirit beheading blade can only be supported by 12 ancient Sword King pillars at the same time. Shen Wuyue explained. To become a powerful sword spirit, you have to break down and then rebuild. As long as Miss Sun's mysterious sea goes through this slash, it will become a super sword spirit, which will greatly expand its sword spirit space. Finally, through the law of division, it will have the ability of an infinite sword spirit. As he explained, he marveled at the monk's generosity and Lotus Sun's good fortune. This girl's status was too high. She was actually able to make the monk take out his trump card and use it. During the upgrade process, the 12 ancient Sword King pillars would erupt with powerful energy, drawing in the chaotic energy of the universe, which would cause the spirit beheading blade to fall. Because the chaotic energy was too strong, the moment it fell, the ancient Sword King pillars would collapse. And after the spirit beheading blade completed its final mission, it would also directly fall apart. Everything on this upgrade altar was a one-time thing. It would definitely be destroyed after the upgrade. But the monk had used his experience of nearly 4,000 reincarnations to collect each of the items that made up the altar. These 12 ancient Sword King pillars and the spirit beheading blade alone were priceless treasures that cultivators in the present world couldn't measure with money. They came from the same place as Jinka, a place called Sword King World. Shen Wuyue had only heard of it from rumors. That place was a hell from which there was no return. Anything that got close would be crushed in an instant. The altar is set up pretty well. After inspecting the structure of the altar, the monk nodded with satisfaction. Now there's only one last step left. Then, he took out the Heavenly Dao Magic Cube from the universe in the sleeve. Once this thing appeared, it would resound throughout the world. His parents had raised second-generation Demon Saint for nothing. Both he and Shen Wuyue were terrified. Who would have thought that the monk would actually have such a godly object? Lord Primitive Demon Saint, could this be? That's right, the Heavenly Dao Magic Cube. The monk nodded. Your Excellency can even get your hands on this thing? It's not mine, I don't have the ability. The monk smiled. Ling Jinren gave it to me to complete this upgrade. So it's a love token. Shen Wuyue was enlightened. On the side, Demon Saint echoed. Holy shit! The Heavenly Dao Magic Cube is a love token. As expected of Ling Jinren. This thing is worth trillions of times more than a diamond ring. It's such a blessing to be Ling Jinren's girlfriend. If it were me, I would marry him. Steam rose from Lotus Sun's ears again. Chapter 1368. The Heavenly Dao Magic Cube was a space-stabilizing auxiliary magic tool that Dao ancestor Wang had developed. Its value was self-evident. It was rumored that Dao ancestor Wang had created a total of 9 magic cubes. However, in Tyrant's 4,000 reincarnation experiences, he had only encountered the Heaven's Tesseract after clearing out the unspeakable lands. At this point, the Golden Lamp monk actually had a deduction in his heart. That was, the remaining 8 magic cubes were most likely used by Dao ancestor Wang in other places to stabilize space. A Dao ancestor was so powerful that he definitely had more than one inner world. Even many of the Dao gods in the God realm were dual-core Dao gods. The 2 from the Wang clan and Gu clan, had even cultivated to the level of 3 to 4 cores. If he was a Tao father, he would be able to give birth to an inner world that would definitely rise to a whole new level. Before Wang Ling had been born, Tao ancestor Wang was probably the only one who had been able to use the heavenly Tao magic cube to place the core world outside. Now the unspeakable land had been destroyed. In other words, Tao ancestor Wang had set up another 8 core worlds like the unspeakable land. If the main body was included, perhaps there would be dozens of them? The inner world represented the maximum amount of spiritual energy a cultivator could contain. The more cores there were, the stronger the spiritual energy would be. And Wang Ling's inner world. The monk guessed that it might be greater than Tao ancestor Wang. However, even if it was greater than the number, the monk didn't think that the difference would be too great. He was estimating Tao ancestor Wang's former level. Although monsters like Wang Ling had been born in the long river of history, Tao ancestor Wang himself had also continuously grown up in the cycle of reincarnation. Although Golden Lamp Monk didn't know where Tao ancestor Wang was. However, according to the overall estimation of the Tao ancestor's growth, Tao ancestor Wang probably had more than 100 core worlds in his body. Let's start. Everything was ready to upgrade Mysterious Sea, and the monk began to direct second-generation demon saint and Shen Wuyue to activate the upgrade altar. In an instant, the entire altar began to shake violently. A pillar of light shot into the sky, piercing through the clouds, causing the entire sky of the demon realm to instantly turn dark purple, emitting a powerful pressure. Has Demon Saint started? It's really going to upgrade the demon realm. At this moment, the demon realm was in an uproar. All the demons were looking at the sky eagerly. In the sky above the demon realm's sacred pillar, a strange light suddenly appeared, followed by a terrifying chaotic force, like a long spear, suddenly piercing the altar. A huge amount of energy poured down from the vault of heaven. Clouds steamed and rosy, falling from the highest point of the vault of heaven like a waterfall. This kind of scene was something the demon race had never seen before, and they were all amazed. For a moment, with the sacred pillar as the center, the entire monster world shook. The energy of chaotic force hit the altar, and at the same time, it began to be diverted by the guiding device that Tyrant had set up in advance. Violent waves spread from the top of the sacred pillar, and then expanded to the 108 domains of the demon realm. Like a mountain torrent, a deafening roar erupted. At the same time, countless illusions descended from the void. Everyone was shocked. This was an illusion produced by the impact of the chaotic energy. It was frightening and extremely destructive. Compared to the path of leveling up on Earth, leveling up in the demon realm seemed to be more bumpy than leveling up on Earth. Run. Seeing this, Sun Yinger pulled Lotus Sun away and quickly retreated. What's this? Lotus Sun asked. Sun Yinger. It's a chaos illusion. There's a certain probability that it will happen when the power of chaotic force is used to level up the world. She reacted quickly and dragged Lotus Sun away almost immediately to avoid being hit directly by the core attack. Although Lotus Sun's body had already been blessed, Sun Yinger still felt that it was safer to do so. She had to make sure that Lotus Sun was absolutely safe. Otherwise, that big freak Wang Ying would use her as a pretext again. Monk Golden Lamp stood in the center of the storm of chaotic force. He raised his hand and put second-generation demon saint and Shen Wuyue into his inner world. The moment he did this, his whole body was enveloped in the illusion of chaotic force. Under the impact of the powerful chaotic force, from an outsider's point of view, the monk's body began to distort, as if he had been sucked into some vortex. But very quickly, this distorted force was forcibly corrected by the monk's powerful Buddhist light. A huge swastika character burst out of the monk's pupils. In a short time, Buddhist light interweaved, and in that moment, the supreme power of Buddhism surged out of the monk's body. Senior Golden Lamp is amazing. Even under Sun Yinger's protection, Lotus Sun could still feel the immense pressure of the chaotic force. Standing alone in the center, Monk Golden Lamp fought everything with brute force. He was simply incomparably valiant. Boom! The huge swastika character expanded continuously as it battered the chaotic force and crushed down on the strange beasts that had been created by the chaotic force. Lotus Sun was dazzled by everything. Divine Pond, Monk Golden Lamp was extraordinary and very handsome indeed. But she also weakly voiced her opinion. If it's classmate Wang Ling, she couldn't go on with her words, because she felt that they might be a little inappropriate. In the end, Sun Yinger poured out everything she hadn't said. That's for sure. Ling Zhenren might be able to break this chaotic force with just a breath. To put it bluntly, the monk is handsome, but he's indeed a little showy. Sun Yinger actually didn't say this loudly, but when the monk, who was resisting the attack, heard it, he lost his balance and almost spat out a mouthful of blood. After several dozen seconds, the chaotic force was torn apart by the monk. At the same time, the chaotic force also ended. The strange phenomenon in the sky disappeared. After absorbing enough chaotic energy, the 12 ancient Sword King pillars instantly burst forth with light. After releasing the power of chaos that had accumulated in the pillars, they swiftly turned into powder and disintegrated on the spot. At the same time, the energy of the 12 pillars poured into the top, and in the end, Spirit Beheading Blade fell. A brilliant blue light burst forth from the Dharma. Chi. Spirit Beheading Blade was extremely sharp, and when it cut through Mysterious C's body, it was split in two. The monk seized the opportunity to stuff the Heavenly Tao magic cube into the crack. Then he used the strength of his palm to reassemble Mysterious C, which had been split apart by Spirit Beheading Blade. This action took a lot of effort on the monk's part. He had clearly consumed a lot of spirit power in the process of merging Mysterious C, and it seemed to be even more difficult than resisting the chaotic force. The main reason was that this was the monk's first time using the Heavenly Tao magic cube, and he wasn't very familiar with it. Another reason was that he was being cautious. This was the only piece of the Heavenly Tao magic cube he had. If the fusion failed, it would really be a waste of God's gift. Even the monk himself couldn't forgive himself. Fortunately, the whole process went smoothly. Merge. A few minutes later, with the monk's explosive shout, Mysterious C, which had been split apart, was successfully merged back together. She was surprised to find that Mysterious C's appearance had also changed. Compared with the original Mysterious C, the current Mysterious C looked about 10 years older, and had become more mature and charismatic. She was wearing a gorgeous dark blue evening dress, and her blue eyes were like sapphires shining in the deep sea. Her silver-gray hair hung down, and there was a beautiful curl at the end like a wave. After fusing with the power of the Heavenly Tao magic cube, it's really extraordinary. After being released from the monk's inner world, second-generation demon Saint couldn't help exclaiming in admiration. The sword spirit space of Miss Sun's Mysterious Sea Sword is now as vast as the inner world. Moreover, it has fused with Miss Er's nomological division. Too strong. Shen Wuyue also sighed. A foundation establishment cultivator actually had an inner world. This was simply outrageous. But why doesn't Miss Sun look so happy? Second-generation demon Saint asked. Because Mysterious C has grown up, Sun Yinger said bluntly. Staring at Mysterious C's grown chest, she shrugged and sighed. It would be great if Rongrong was this big. Everyone. Sun Yinger. If Rongrong is big, I'll be big too. I actually don't care about that. Being small is good, and being big is also good. If it's a little bigger, I'll be able to use it as a shock absorber when Wang Yingqiu hits me. Everyone. Sun Yinger. When that time comes, it'll be like having 2 air shoes on your chest. How nice would that be? Inger, what nonsense are you talking about? Lotus Sun was both embarrassed and annoyed by his words. She wished she could sew Sun Yinger's mouth shut. Chapter 1369. December 4th, Friday. It was definitely a memorable day. In this world, there was one more foundation establishment cultivator, whose combat power could rival the peak of Tao Master. If the label of being the daughter of a rich family was removed, she was just an ordinary girl. She was such an ordinary foundation establishment cultivator. In today's era where building foundation stage cultivators were as numerous as the hairs on an ox, such a realm was simply impossible to establish a foothold in the cultivation world. Until the girl pulled out her own level 9999, 999, 9999 Spiritual Sword. Grasping the hilt of Mysterious Sea's sword. Lotus Sun sensed the powerful sword chi emanating from the upgraded Mysterious Sea. The current Mysterious Sea was indeed astonishingly strong. In a situation where he had not even unsheathed his sword, even if his sword chi had reached its peak state before leveling up, it would only be a drop in the ocean compared to his sword chi now. Senior, can I try the sword? Lotus Sun asked. Shen Wuyue was greatly alarmed. Miss Sun, please don't try it here. If you swing your sword down, the sacred pillar might collapse. Lotus Sun covered her mouth in surprise. Is it really that powerful? Of course. Shen Wuyue wiped his sweat. With Mysterious High's current sword, anyone below the Dao Master level would be killed. The power of nature was unparalleled. After Miss Sun's Mysterious Sea went through this upgrade, it's already incomparable. On the Universe Sword Spirits leaderboard, he can definitely be ranked in the top 10. Monk said. I remember classmate Wang Ling has a peachwood sword. You mean Lord Jinka? Lord Jinka would definitely come first. No one could surpass him. Furthermore, Lord Jinka has an upgraded form, and when he transforms into Lord Jingbai, no one can match him. Tyrant said. And the second sword is Anticipate. I know this, it's Senior Aujua's spirit sword. But he seems a little dispirited right now, Lotus Sun said. This penniless monk has also heard of this matter. The monk nodded and said, but as far as this poor monk knows, prediction seems to be without a scabbard. If we want to help him pull himself together, I think we can play matchmaker with Miss Mysterious Sea. I don't think so. Before Lotus Sun could answer, Sun Yinger shook her head. The monk laughed. Missing. Or what do you think is inappropriate? Sun Yinger said. My Rongrong is still single, but the sword spirit is first. The monk smiled and remained silent. It was said that a spirit sword was like its master. If Mysterious Sea succeeded, perhaps Master would be able to speed up as well. So he thought. Actually, not necessarily. However, the matchmaking between you and Mysterious Sea was ultimately just the monk's own joke. That was all he had to say, and he did not continue on this topic. In fact, even the monk didn't expect this. Mysterious Sea seemed to have taken it seriously. On the other side, in the Demon Realm's Mountain of Return, Loopy Toad was cultivating in seclusion here. This was a secret realm that Wang Ling had specially opened up for Loopy Toad in the demon world. Of course, Loopy Toad wouldn't be the only one benefiting from this secret land. After that, all the core members of the war sect who needed to go into seclusion to undergo tribulation could come here. In this secret realm, the flow of time would be accelerated. It greatly reduced the time spent on cultivation. It had swallowed the soul essence of a young divine beast, and according to the normal time, it would take at least a few hundred years to digest. But now 3 days was enough. Furthermore, before it was completely digested, the signs of a breakthrough had already appeared. This was a good thing for Loopy Toad. Its only goal was to advance to a divine beast. As long as this goal was achieved, it would be enough. As for the rest of the divine beast's soul, it could leave it to Little Silver. Strictly speaking, Little Silver was its junior brother, and as its eldest senior brother, it was only right for it to take care of him. At that moment, tribulation thunder rumbled in the sky above the Mountain of Return. The power of chaos surged up above, which made Loopy Toad feel a little dangerous. It didn't know if it was because the demon world had completed its upgrade at the same time, but it felt that the lightning tribulation sea above its head was particularly violent. The standard for a divine beast to undergo a tribulation was to endure at least 2% of the power of chaos. But now, in Loopy Toad's view, the power of chaos in the lightning tribulation sea in the sky was already seriously over the limit. What the hell is going on? Loopy Toad was stupefied. If this lightning tribulation struck, it felt that it wouldn't be able to survive on its own. Something was very wrong, because in the next breath, Loopy Toad sensed that the power of chaos was so thick that even breathing was difficult. It was now more than 30%. Loopy Toad felt that it couldn't take it anymore. What happened to the agreed 2%? Had it been tricked? At the same time, Battlesec's seclusion cellar monitoring and command center swiftly made an emergency report in response to the sudden increase in the power of chaos on the Mountain of Return. The Mountain of Return. The power of chaos is abnormally thick. Brother Loopy Toad is in danger. In the command center, Cowan nervously made the report. After the disbandment of the SBP Foundation, he had officially joined Battlesect, and was also the first foreigner to do so. Why was this happening? After receiving the news, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal frowned and asked in Battlesec's core group, "Something doesn't seem right. Does anyone know what's going on?" Ajwa. Senior Golden Lamp said before that the concentration of the power of chaos in the lightning tribulation to advance to a divine beast was only 2%. Even if there was an anomaly, it wouldn't be more than 5%. This concentration is very abnormal. If it strikes down, I'm afraid that even this secret realm Sherfu set up in passing will be destroyed. Golden Lamp. Don't panic, everyone. I'm in the demon world. I was originally here to accompany Miss Lotus Sun to upgrade the mysterious sea. I didn't expect this to happen. I'm going to take a look. The monk didn't dare be sure of the specific situation until he saw it with his own eyes. But he already had some guesses in his heart. Lotus Sun. Senior Golden Lamp. What on earth is going on? Is Loopy Toad in danger? Golden Lamp said, "Don't worry, Miss Sun. With this poor monk here, there won't be any problems. Later, you and Missing, should stay outside the secret realm and never go in." In fact, when Golden Lamp said this, he himself felt a little weak. The concentration of the power of chaos in the lightning tribulation had already exceeded 30%, and it was still rising. Given his realm, 50% was already his limit. If it continued to rise, Golden Lamp felt that he might even be struck to ashes. When they arrived at the secret realm of the Mountain of Return without a hitch, the monk felt that the situation was more serious than he had imagined. Cracks had already appeared at the entrance to the secret realm. "We have to stop it as soon as possible." The monk frowned. Otherwise, if the secret realm was broken and the concentrated power of chaos inside gushed out, even the upgraded demon world would instantly fall apart. Thinking this, Monk Golden Lamp disregarded his own safety and stepped into the entrance of the secret realm. As soon as he entered, the monk immediately felt his knees sink sharply. The pressure brought about by this highly concentrated chaotic energy almost made him kneel down. He came back to his senses and looked at Loopy Toad. He saw that Loopy Toad's entire body had already been embedded in the ground and was almost squashed into a piece of dog meat. "Lord Primitive Demon Saint, what's the situation?" Second-generation Demon Saint was also very concerned about the situation inside. In the end, as soon as he walked in, his back foot straightaway fell to his knees with a plop. Shen Wuyue followed second-generation Demon Saint, and as soon as he entered, he also fell to his knees next to second-generation Demon Saint with a plop. It was hard to imagine that a Demon Saint and a holy envoy would actually kneel so neatly. The corners of the monk's mouth twitched. What were they doing? Were they acting like big brother and sister-in-law Happy New Year? But it wasn't New Year yet. You're tuning into the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.